Chapter 1502. Sima saw the disgust in her eyes and said, "How pitiful! Such a good girl. She probably won't be able to meet anyone with her hand in the future." "Li likes perfection. Xuanqiu," he said, "this girl has a bad hand, so she doesn't want to follow you anymore." Sima Yue glanced at Xuanqiu He. Was it a coincidence that he said this? "But how can I?" Dong Li bit her lip, as if she was in a dilemma. "But how can I?" Dong Li bit her lip, as if she was in a dilemma. "You don't want it anymore? Miss Dong Li, if you don't want it, why don't you give it to me?" Sima Yue said. "Give it to you?" Dong Li looked at Sima Yue. What did she mean? "Yes, I think it would be awesome to have a maidservant from a hidden clan as my maidservant." Sima Yue smiled brightly, as if she had picked up a treasure. "No, Enlei is a child of the Dong Li family. Her parents entrusted her to the Dong Li family before they died. We can't treat her like this." Dong Li refused. "I said, no wonder you were willing to spend 700,000 upper-grade crystals to save her life." Sima Yue said, "So, you will also cure her hands? Although the price is a little high, it can be cured." "Li, I know that you are doing this for her own good and want her to stay in the family, but she is no longer suitable." Xuanqiu, he said, "With her like this, if your family still remembers the friendship of her parents, let her choose her own path in the future." Sima Yue was not curious about what had happened in the past. She was a little surprised that Xuanqiu he knew about these things. Could it be that something very sensational had happened in the past? She is just a lowly maidservant. What right does she have to choose her own path? Shu snorted coldly. At this time, the steward of the Dong Li family came to Dong Li's side and said something. Dong Li looked at Enlei strangely. Sima Yue knew that the steward must have used some method to prevent them from hearing their conversation. The steward of the Dong Li family was called Dong Li He. He looked very young and very cold. It was said that his position in the Dong Li family was not low, but he was very low-key and could even be said to be taciturn. Along the way, it was Dong Li who arranged these things, and he would only speak occasionally. At this time, he went to talk to Dong Li, but no one knew what he was talking about. "I said that you want to discuss her whereabouts, and I have no objection to that. However, can you first pay for the 2 elixirs from before?" she asked aloud. She spoke very bluntly, staring at Dong Li as if she was afraid that they would not pay up. Dong Li had just finished speaking and retreated to the side, thinking about his own matters, as if he did not care about what was going on here at all. "Isn't it just spar? How could the Dong Li family be short of you?" Dong Li laughed. "However, before that, I have to take care of one thing first." "Then hurry up," Sima Yue said with some displeasure. Dong Li came in front of Enlei. She had already used the bandage that had fallen to the ground to wrap her hand. "Enlei." Dong Li had her back to the crowd, and she looked at Enlei coldly. Mississippi, Enlei suppressed the fear in her heart and made herself look less scared. "Fourth uncle told me just now. I didn't expect that father and the others had promised your parents that if one day you want to leave the Dong Li family, we will not stop you. Today, since this matter has been brought up, let me ask you, do you want to leave or not?" Enlei was stunned, and so were the others. Even Sima Yue was the same. Sima Yue was still thinking of using her own methods to make Dong Li and the others give up on Enlei, and in the blink of an eye, the opportunity was right in front of her. Dong Li saw that she was in a daze, and the bandage on her hand unconsciously fell, revealing the sharp finger bones again. A look of disgust flashed in her eyes. Enlei's shock was pierced by that look, and her divine sense returned. She bowed and said, "Young master, he is right. Miss is so noble, you should not have someone like this servant by your side. This servant wishes to leave." "Have you made up your mind?" Dong Li was not surprised to hear this answer. Today, she had chosen to betray, and tomorrow, she would have to bear the consequences of betrayal. No one could betray her. Enlei nodded firmly. "Since you have made your decision, then you are no longer a member of the Dong Li family. Today, I will remove the symbol of the Dong Li family for you. In the future, if anything happens to you, the Dong Li family will not stand up for you." and you can no longer walk around in the name of the Dong Lai family. Do you understand? This servant understands. Dong Lai Li placed her hand on Enlei's forehead, and then a ray of light rushed out of her body. At this moment, the aura on her body was different from that of Shui and the others. Enlei did not know whether it was because she could not bear the physical impact, or because she could not bear the mental relaxation, but she suddenly sat on the ground. Dong Lai Li did not look at her again and said, "Our master-servant relationship ends here. In the future, behave yourself." After saying this, she turned and left. She came before Sima Yue and said, "Miss Yue, now that Enlei is no longer a member of the Dong Lai family, what should we do about the consultation fee?" Sima Yue could tell at a glance that she did not intend to pay, but the expression on her face was full of silent threat. As a little girl from a small place, she naturally had to follow the wishes of this young lady. Since Enlei is no longer your servant, then this fee, naturally, you don't have to pay. She said the latter part of her sentence through gritted teeth. Miss Yue is indeed a reasonable person, Dong Lai Li said with a smile. However, 700,000 top-grade crystals, this matter cannot be settled so easily. I will go ask her for the money. After saying this, Sima Yue ran in front of Enlei and stretched out her hand. Money? What money? Enlei seemed to have recovered at this time and looked at Sima Yue with a puzzled expression. Of course, the money for those 2 elixirs. You are no longer a member of the Dong Lai family, of course. Miss Dong Lai has no obligation to pay for you. So, just pay up. I have no money. Enlei lowered her head. No money? Aren't the maidservants of big families very rich? Sima Yue said, "Don't fool me just because I come from a small place. I really have no money." Enlei lowered her head even more. Other maidservants might have money, but her money had long been robbed by others. This is difficult. Sima Yue touched her chin. If I knew you would end up like this, I wouldn't have saved you, and I even had to pay so many rare medicinal herbs. Alas, it seems that the joke just now is going to come true, and you are really going to be my maidservant. How is that possible? Enlei cried. Sima Yue's back was facing the others, and only Enlei saw her expression and cooperated with her. Impossible? Then pay up. Otherwise, I'll just call you Mississippi. Chapter 1503. Enlei looked at Sima Yue as if she had been humiliated. In the eyes of others, it was as if she had come from the hidden clan, so how could she be her maid? In the eyes of others, it was as if she had come from the hidden clan, so how could she be her maid? She and Sima Yue were seated with one facing the crowd, and the other with her back facing the crowd. So everyone could only see her expression, and not Sima Yue's. Sima Yue, don't go too far. No matter what, she came from the hidden clan. How could she be your maid? Shui shouted. Wouldn't that make her look like her own miss? That would be too degrading to the miss's identity. Sima Yue looked back at Shui and said, according to what you said, you intend to help her return the 700,000 high-grade crystals? How is that possible? Not to mention that she didn't have that many crystals. Even if she did, she wouldn't help Enlei return the money. Since you won't return it, then who among you is willing to help her return it? Sima Yue looked around, and the people from the Dong Lai clan all took a step back. They were just maids and guards, so where would they find so much spare money to help someone who had betrayed the Dong Lai clan? Yes, although Enlei had left under such circumstances, in their eyes, she was still a traitor. Sima Yue shrugged. Since you won't help her return the money, then I have no choice. You can't let me suffer a loss, right? Am I right, Miss Dong Lai? Her meaning was very clear. You had agreed on this before, and now you're going back on your word. It's good enough that I didn't ask you for money. If you stop me from taking in maids again, will you compensate me for my losses? Since she's free now, the Dong Lai clan naturally can't control her, the Dong Lai clan stated. Anyway, she had no intention of letting Enlei and Sima Yue off. Although Xuanqiu he had said that Sima Yue had saved them in that incident, she didn't think so at all. She still felt that Xuanqiu he had saved her. Therefore, she had never seen Sima Yue as her savior. Instead, she had seen her as an eyesore. Love rival? Xuanqiu he had never expressed his love for Sima Yue, and Sima Yue had Wu Lingyu by her side. Why did she still feel that she was an eyesore? Did you hear that? Your young mistress has no objections. After Sima Yue finished speaking, she turned to look at Enlei and said, "So, have you thought it through? Do you want to sell yourself to repay the debt? I don't think someone taught by the Donglai clan would go back on their word, right?" The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. How was she giving others a choice? She was clearly only giving others one way out. Her last sentence was very serious. If Enlei still went back on her word, it would mean that the Donglai clan had not taught her well. "I agree, young mistress." Enlei lowered her head, as if everything she had done was to protect the reputation of the Donglai clan. "At least you know what's good for you." Shu'er snorted coldly. Even in this situation, Enlei still knew to protect the clan's image. But she did not expect that just after getting rid of the Donglai clan, she would become someone else's maidservant. This was also a slap in the face for the Donglai clan. "Since you are my maidservant, then you must bear my mark." After saying this, Sima Yue sent a strand of divine sense into Enlei's body. If Enlei wanted to betray her, it would cost her her life. This was the inspiration she had gotten from Donglai Li. If Donglai Li had not just taken back the mark of the Donglai clan, she would not have thought of this. She could only make Enlei swear. "That's good." She withdrew her hand and said with a smile, "But I don't know if you are worth 700,000 top-grade crystals." Enlei was silent and did not respond to her. She lowered her head, and no one knew what she was thinking. "Yue, since you have taken care of your business, can you take a look at these corpses?" Xuanqiu he had not rushed her, except for adding fuel to the fire just now. "Wait a moment, let me bandage her hand first," Sima Yue said as she took out the ointment and applied it on Enlei's hand again. Then, she wrapped the bandage around her hand. Enlei found that after applying the ointment this time, her hand felt a lot more comfortable. She looked at Sima Yue with some doubt. Sima Yue smiled. "Of course, I have to use better people. You rest here, I will go over there to take a look." Enlei found that Sima Yue's smile had a healing power, and she nodded unconsciously. Sima Yue pulled Wu Lingyu to the side of the corpses and examined them one by one. "Miss Yue, how is it?" Xuanqiu asked. "Just as I guessed, these corpses were not only drained of blood, but the death aura on their wounds is also corrosive." Sima Yue said, "I don't know if it was like this in the past, or if these corpses have evolved. But one thing is for sure, the people who raised them must have spent a lot of effort, and many people must have died. I think if you want to investigate, you can start from the places where many people died, such as the massacre of villages and cities, or the disappearance of many people." "I don't think so. The news in the inner circle has always spread faster. If there was a massacre, the news should have come out long ago," Xuanqiu he said. "That's right. Do you really know who it is? You're not talking nonsense, right?" Shu'er snorted. Sima Yue ignored her and said, "If there weren't a lot of deaths, then this matter is even more troublesome." "What do you mean?" Xuanqiu he could feel the seriousness in her words, and he could not help but sit up straight. "It's certain that they are using human blood to feed these corpses. If there was a massacre in the city, it's very easy for big forces like you to find clues. But I think the most likely situation now is that there are scattered people missing in the inner circle, and you won't be able to find anything even if you want to." Everyone was silent. She was right. If there was a massacre in the city, it would not be difficult to find something. But if there were only a few dozen or a few hundred people missing, no one would pay attention. This was because this kind of situation was all too common in a continent where martial arts were respected and where the strong lived. "Hey, you said you know if that's the case, as if it's true." Shu'er snorted. "If it's true, then why didn't they turn into skeletons like Enlei?" The others also had the same question. "That's because they're already dead. Only the aura of death affects the living," Sima Yue explained. "Send a message back to the clan, and let them arrange for their subordinates to investigate," Xuanqiu he ordered. "Since he has said so, let's also send a message back to the clan," Donglai Li said. Fourth uncle, I'll have to trouble you with this. Dong Lai nodded and went to send a message to the clan. Do you still want to look at these corpses? If you don't, then burn them. There's an aura of death on them, so we can only burn them, Sima Yue said. No, burn them. Dong Lai Li frowned in disgust. Chapter 1504. These corpses were useless. Those people did not even dare to touch them. Sima Yue released a few flames and burned the corpses to ashes. These corpses were useless. Those people did not even dare to touch the corpses. By the way, when we first arrived, we saw those people leaving with some corpses. What are they doing with the corpses? Shui asked. Sima Yue rolled her eyes in her heart and thought to herself, this IQ. Who are those people in cloaks? Xuanqiuhe's voice was as gentle as ever, but Sima Yue felt a little strange. Who are those people in cloaks? Dead people. What else could they do with those corpses? Of course, they would bring them back to be corpses. How could she ask such a simple question? If she was not stupid, what was? Shui also reacted and somewhat regretted asking such an idiotic question. Sima Yue thought for a moment and said, if you want to investigate, I can give you some clues, but it may not be accurate. It was also something I heard along the way. Clues. The Yang family of the 16 prefectures may be involved in this matter, Sima Yue said. But as I said just now, it is also hearsay. I don't know if there is such a thing or not. If you want to investigate, it has nothing to do with me. Send this news back together, and let people pay more attention to the Yang family's movements. Xuanqiuhe believed her without hesitation. Dong Lai Li hesitated for a moment and did not say anything. Obviously, she did not believe what she said. Sima Yue did not insist on it. Anyway, it was up to her whether to say it or not, and whether to believe it or not. If it was not to relieve the pressure on Uncle He, she would not have brought up the matter of the Yang family. It's getting late, let's find a place to set up camp, Xuanqiuhe said. After arriving at the oasis, they would not be in a hurry at night, but they would often hear the sounds of fighting. There were corpses here, and although they could not see them now, it still made people feel uncomfortable. So they walked forward for a while before setting up camp. Sima Yue's tent was set up some distance away from the Dong Lai family, with the Xuanqiu family in between. And Lei hesitated in front of the tent for a moment, then entered Sima Yue's tent. Sima Yue glanced at Wu Lingyu, who understood and set up a boundary with a wave of his hand. And Lei had some doubts in her heart, but she consciously did not ask anything. She was probably going to ask about the Dong Lai family. Should she tell her when the time came or not? Come here, Sima Yue said. And Lei walked over. Since she was her master now, what reason did she have to disobey? No matter what I do later, don't resist. Sima Yue stretched out her hand. And Lei subconsciously took a step back and looked at her warily. What do you want to do? Wasn't it enough that he had already left a mark in her body? When Dong Lai Li extracted the mark of the Dong Lai family from your body, she also put her own mark into your body. I don't need to tell you the consequences of this, do I? And Lei's body trembled. Of course she knew the consequences. She saw a faint line on her wrist, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. Other than the Dong Lai family's 10,000-mile tracking, what else could it be that she could not detect? Once she had this mark on her body, no matter where Dong Lai Li was, she would be able to find her. She was a person who had betrayed her family, and yet she had left this mark on her body. She knew what it was. They wanted to kill her. How did you know? She looked at Sima Yue. Don't forget, you have my mark in your body, Sima Yue said. We should be able to enter the mining area in 2 days. I don't want you to bring any danger to us. Come on. And Lei did not ask if she could remove the mark for her. Since she could discover it, removing it should not be a problem. Sima Yue was very accomplished in the area of the soul, and with Wu Lingyu's guidance, removing this kind of mark was not a problem at all. The process was a little painful, but fortunately, it did not take long. In a few minutes, Sima Yue had removed the mark on Lei's body. The thin thread on her wrist was gone, and the Dong Lai family would not be able to track her in the future. It's done. Sima Yue wiped the sweat from her forehead, her face a little pale. And Lei looked straight at her and said blankly, "Why? What? Why did you save me?" To remove this mark, she had spent a lot of energy, and it was not easy. "Why is there a reason?" Sima Yue took out an elixir and swallowed it. "You are one of my people. Of course, I have to guarantee that you will not be killed by the Donglai family. I'll need your help in the future." "Use her in the future?" And Lei lowered her head. But why did she feel that Sima Yue's eyes did not say so? "Take this elixir. Your hand will be healed in 2 days." Sima Yue gave her a bottle of elixir. And Lei took the elixir suspiciously. She went back and ate one. That night she felt her hand itch. The next day, when Sima Yue applied the medicine to her hand, she found that it had already started to grow flesh. "So magical?" She looked at her hand in disbelief. "The elixir I gave you is made of herbs that can bring the dead back to life. How can it not be fast?" Sima Yue said while applying the medicine. "One elixir costs hundreds of thousands. Do you think I'm bragging? Then I can't eat anymore." And Lei remembered that there were 2 more elixirs in the bottle. She couldn't eat anymore. "I'm giving it to you. When your hand is healed, you can be of help to me when we reach the mining area. You won't be a hindrance to me." Sima Yue said, "Although this elixir is precious, it's nothing to me. You can eat it as much as you want." Ugh, why did she feel like she was a nouveau riche? "Thank you, Mississippi." She still felt a little awkward. At the same time, she was shocked. In their eyes, a little girl from a small place had such a good foundation. As they spoke, Sima Yue had already bandaged her hand again. She reminded her to remember to eat the elixir so that her hand could recover as soon as possible. After 2 days, they left the grassland and entered the mountains. At the same time, it meant that they had entered the immemorial mining area. The vegetation on the mountain had been destroyed, which meant that many people had entered. They had been wandering in the mountains for more than half a month. They had seen many people, but not a single mine. Some people were already starting to get anxious, including Dong Lai Li. "Miss, even you can't sense anything?" The people from the Dong Lai family asked her while they were resting. "I can't sense anything." Dong Lai Li shook her head. "I can sense it in all directions, but we haven't seen anything." She sounded a little defeated. "Don't worry. If even you can't find it, no one else can. Let's take it slow," Xuanqiu he comforted her. After he said that, Dong Lai Li was indeed less anxious. At the side, Sima Yue removed the bandage on Enlei's hand. Seeing that her hand had recovered, she smiled and said, "How was it? I told you it would recover, didn't I?" Everyone's attention was drawn to her. Chapter 1505. Enlei, how did your hand recover? Shui Er cried out in surprise. Enlei clenched her own hand. That meaty feeling did not change at all. Enlei clenched her hand. The fleshy feeling hadn't changed. Previously, when Sima Yue told her that it would recover in less than half a month, she still had some doubts. But now, she was completely convinced. Previously, when Sima Yue told her that she would recover in less than half a month, she still had some doubts. But now, she was completely convinced by her. "Enlei, I'm talking to you. How dare you ignore me?" Seeing that she was ignoring her, Shu Er walked over and shouted. Enlei glanced at her and recalled what Sima Yue said to her. She said, "Why should I care about you? I'm no longer your subordinate. What right do you have to scold me?" Shui Er had never been contradicted by Enlei like this before. She reached out and wanted to hit her. "Miss Shui Er, Enlei is now mine. If you hit her, are you trying to go against me?" Sima Yue stood up and looked at Shui Er with a gaze that made people shudder. How could this person have such a gaze? I know that you're not happy with us because I made Enlei my maidservant. You feel that I've made you lose face. If it wasn't for Xuanqiu He, you would have chased us away long ago." Sima Yue interrupted her. "Actually, it's very easy to make us leave. Just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush." These days, the people from the Donglai clan had been targeting Sima Yue and the others. If it wasn't for Enlei's hand that was ready to slap them in the face, they would have left long ago. Xuanqiuhe's face darkened slightly, and he folded his hands together. The people from the Xuanqiu clan knew that he was unhappy. Seeing this, Dong Lili smiled and said, "Miss Yue, you're being too serious. We don't mean that." "Really?" "Of course," Dong Lili said. "You're his friend. Why would we want to chase you away? And Lei's problem is that she can't pay you back, and she's not a member of the Donglai clan. Naturally, this has nothing to do with us. Don't misunderstand." "Is that so?" "Of course. Yue, we're here. It's too dangerous for you to leave alone," Xuanqiuhe said. "Come with us. I don't care about danger. I'm just afraid that when the time comes, they'll say that we relied on their strength to find the mining area." Sima Yue said, "We're not very familiar with you. In order to avoid this situation, it's better for us to leave." "Do you really want to leave?" Xuanqiuhe asked. Xuanqiuhe looked in the direction of Wu Lingyu. After a moment of silence, he said, "All right then. If there's any danger, contact me." He took out the mother-child stone for communication and handed it to her. Sima Yue took it. "I'll wait for you at the exit in half a year," Xuanqiuhe said. Sima Yue wanted to say no, but when she remembered that she still had to ask him about the divine medicine, she nodded. "Half a year should be enough. Give me a temporary life token of yours," Xuanqiuhe said. Sima Yue took out a jade stone and dripped a drop of blood on it. She infused some spiritual power to fuse the blood with the jade stone, and a temporary life token was made. "If you don't come out after a long time, you can go back. I'll look for you about your body later," Sima Yue said. "All right." Xuanqiuhe did not say things like, "I'll definitely wait for you." If he did, it would only put pressure on each other. "Goodbye." Wu Lingyu took Sima Yue's hand and left without any reluctance. He had wanted to leave a long time ago. He was not in a good mood facing a person who was staring at his woman. And Lei and Hua hurried to catch up, and the four of them soon disappeared from everyone's sight. Seeing Sima Yue leave, Dong Lili felt her whole body relax, and her mood became much better. "Let's continue our search," she said to Xuanqiuhe with a smile. "I think we should also part ways here," Xuanqiuhe said. "Since we're already here, there won't be that much danger later." Dong Lili did not expect Xuanqiuhe to suddenly say that they should leave, and was momentarily stunned. Although our two families have a good relationship, this is not a small matter. To avoid unnecessary trouble later, it's better to part ways here. Xuanqiuhe did not give her a chance to speak and continued, "If you encounter any danger, you can also contact me. Goodbye." Elder Ji, let's go." Then he really left with the people from the Xuanqiu family. As a woman, Dong Lili did not say anything to stop him. She could only watch as he gradually disappeared into the distance. She actually wanted to say that she had already sensed the location of the mining area, but because Sima Yue was there, she said that she could not sense it. She also wanted to say that if there was a disagreement between the two families, she was willing to let him go. Feeling the coldness from her body, no one from the Donglai family dared to step forward to speak. After a while, she recovered and said, "Let's go." Since he did not appreciate her kindness, she did not need to force him. Future matters could be dealt with in the future, and now they had to settle the matter of the mining area. If they could gain something this time, it would be best if they could get some immemorial spiritual beasts, then the Donglai family's status among the few big hidden clans would skyrocket. Love affairs should be put aside for later. After Sima Yue left them, she walked leisurely in front with Wu Lingyu, not in a hurry to find the mineral vein. Hua was behind them, holding a branch and gnawing on it. After eating for so long, it was hard on her teeth. And Lei looked at the three of them leisurely. They did not look like they were here to hunt for treasures at all. "Miss, aren't you anxious?" She could not help but ask. "What's there to be anxious about?" Sima Yue had a smile on her face. "Xiao Jin has gone to sleep." Xiao Jin had gone to sleep? What did she mean? Sima Yue did not say too much. And Lei would slowly learn about her matters in the future. A few days later, Lei finally understood what she meant when she said that Xiao Jin had gone to sleep. Looking at the sleepy look of Xiao Jin when it woke up, She was instantly captivated by its cuteness. Yeah. Xiao Jin found itself in Sima Yoyue's hands as soon as it woke up, so it rubbed against her palm. Xiao Jin, there's something you like here. Sima Yue said. Something I like? Xiao Jin was stunned at first, then it stood up excitedly. I can smell it. It's so tempting. Bring us there. Sima Yue smiled and patted its head. Xiao Jin quickly climbed onto Sima Yoyue's neck, circled around, and used its tail to guide the way. They followed Xiao Jin's directions and crossed over the mountains. Finally, a few days later, they arrived at a mountain that was not very tall. It's here, it's here. Xiao Jin was about to jump down when Sima Yue grabbed it. There's no hurry. Let's observe the situation first. Sima Yue released some scarlet bees and let them fly into the mountain. Not long after, those scarlet wasps all died for some unknown reason. Her face darkened slightly. This place is indeed not easy to enter. Chapter 1506. Then she tried again. The red wasps died not long after entering. After that, she tried again, and the scarlet wasp died not long after entering. Let's take a look at the surrounding situation first. She released some red wasps to investigate the surrounding situation. Let's take a look at the surrounding situation first. She released some red wasps and let them investigate the surrounding situation. She did not know if those people had entered or if they did not discover this place. There was no one around. Ling Yu, are we going in? She was still a little nervous about the situation inside. Let's go. Wu Lingyu held her hand and walked into the mountain. Sima Yue thought for a while and called Mil out. He could be useful in such a place. And Lei was shocked when she saw a smaller Sima Yue appear. She only knew that it was her contract beast after hearing it. What kind of contract beast was this? There was no aura of a spirit beast on it. Humph, you always think of me last. Mil crossed his arms in front of his chest and said proudly, You are a big shot. Of course you have to come out at the most crucial moment. Sima Yue laughed. We are not underground now. Even if you come out, you won't be able to feel the aura of force, right? Moreover, this is the primordial mining area. I wonder if it has the same force as ordinary mineral veins. Excuses. Mil snorted coldly. We are going in. Are you coming with us? If you are not, we are leaving. If something were to happen to me then. Go, I will go. Mil gritted his teeth. If she was gone, could he still live? Seriously, couldn't she coax him a little more? Flower, what kind of spirit beast is he? Why does he look so much like Miss? And Lei and Flower walked behind and asked. Mil? He is not a spirit beast, Flower said. He is a mass of energy. Force. Because it has no shape, it took the form of Yaya. And Lei was shocked. Force? Could this give birth to spiritual intelligence and form a contract? Then is he very powerful? And Lei regretted asking. If he was not powerful, Miss would not have called him out at this time. However, she was still a little uncertain. Sima Yoyue's background was too weak. It was hard to believe that a person from a small place could have such a powerful spirit beast. Just a little stronger than us. Flower was unhappy, but she had to admit Mil's strength. The freak. Just a little stronger than Flower and the rest. That should not be very powerful, right? And Lei thought. However, she did not seem to know how strong Flower's strength was. Mil came out, and Xiao Qi also clamored to come out. Sima Yue had no choice but to call Xiao Qi out. The others in the Soul Tower clenched their fists unwillingly, but their strength was not comparable to Xiao Qi and the rest. If they went out, they might be a burden. It was better to go into seclusion and cultivate. Xiao Meng had the strength, but she had to stay in the Soul Tower to accompany the angry roar. Sima Yue and the rest entered the mountain. The mountain outside had some vegetation, but here, it was almost bare. After walking for a while, Sima Yue saw the corpses of the scarlet wasps on the ground. She kept them in the Soul Tower and let little Ling bury them. We didn't feel anything strange here. Why would the scarlet wasps die here? She looked at Wu Lingyu with some doubt. Wu Lingyu looked at the surrounding land and said, Be careful, There should be some kind of power coming from underground. So this is the mining area? Should we go down from here? Wu Lingyu closed his eyes and felt for a while. He said, "No need, there is a cave in front. We should go down the passage." He held Sima Yue's hand and walked forward. Sima Yue looked back at Hua Hua and Mill and said, "You two have to protect Enlei." But Hua Hua had become more familiar with Enlei during this period of time. She was not unhappy to have her protect Enlei. Mill glanced at Sima Yue and did not speak. He was still unhappy. However, he did not say no. If something really happened, he would still take action. They walked forward for another few hundred meters. Suddenly, a power rushed out from the ground and spread in all directions with a point in front of them as the center. The power was strong and fast. In just a breath's time, it had spread 100 meters. The moment the power came out, Wu Lingyu hugged Sima Yue and Little Seven and teleported into the air, successfully dodging the attack of the power. Sima Yue looked up and saw Mill holding one in each hand. He looked at the power below thoughtfully. Enlei's body was still covered in cold sweat. She could feel the terror of the power below. If she was below, she would definitely not be able to escape. Fortunately, when Wu Lingyu made his move, Mill had already brought them into the sky. Seeing that Hua Hua was still chewing on a branch, she was really envious of her calmness. Hua Hua saw that she still had a lingering fear and smiled. "Don't worry. With Mill here we will be fine." "Oomph." Mill snorted and loosened his hand. Hua Hua fell just like that. Just as she was about to hit the ground, a flower appeared on the ground and successfully caught her. Enlei was shocked. Just as she was about to cry out, she realized that the power had disappeared. Wu Lingyu brought Sima Yue back to the ground. Little Gold was very excited and kept sticking out its tongue. "This is the smell, yeah, this is the smell," Little Gold said excitedly. "Don't worry, we will go in soon," Sima Yue said. The power disappeared when it reached the other side of the mountain. "Seems like there is something blocking outside," Wu Lingyu said. The hummingbirds were probably killed by this power. Seeing how excited Little Gold is, I think the power came from the mining area below. It is indeed a very ancient aura. Let's go down and take a look. Wu Lingyu continued to lead her forward. Along the way, similar situations occurred a few more times. Every time, it was Wu Lingyu and Mill who led everyone out of danger. Half a day later, they finally arrived at the cave that Wu Lingyu mentioned. They went all the way down the cave. After they came down, Sima Yue felt a few more movements above them. Fortunately, the power only spread horizontally, not upwards or downwards. The cave was very dark. Sima Yue shot out a flame to light up the front. They did not know how far or how deep they had gone. Just when Sima Yue was wondering if they had gone the wrong way, the slope slowed down and finally began to move horizontally. "Mill, can you feel the power here?" Sima Yue asked. Mill shook his head. "But I feel a very strong power here. That power makes me very uncomfortable." "What kind of power could make Mir uncomfortable?" What is that?" Little Seven's voice interrupted her thoughts. She followed Little Seven's gaze and suddenly took a deep breath. Wu Lingyu turned around and saw a stone about a meter wide. It was shaped like a four-legged animal bearing its fangs and claws. Chapter 1507. The stone statue's two claws were facing up, and its 2 feet were very big. 1 foot was on the ground, and the other was on the tip of its foot. The stone statue's 2 claws were facing upwards, and its 2 feet were very big. 1 foot was on the ground, while the other was on the tip of its foot, and its heel was already raised. "This stone statue is a bit scary," Hua Hua said. Yeah, is this a stone statue?" "This stone statue is a little scary," Hua Hua said. Yeah, is this a stone statue?" Sima Yue walked over and looked at the stone statue. The ferocious face and the murderous look in its eyes made people shiver. Sima Yue walked over and looked at the stone statue. The ferocious face and the murderous look in its eyes made people shudder. Sima Yue walked over and looked at the stone statue. Its ferocious face and the murderous look in its eyes made people shiver. The little golden snake suddenly came down from Sima Yoyue's body. Its body suddenly became bigger, and the breath of an ancient divine beast was completely exposed. It looked at the stone statue greedily, and took advantage of the moment when it was stunned to swallow the stone statue. "Little gold, it's dangerous," Sima Yue shouted, but it was too late to stop it. Little gold swallowed the stone statue, and turned around to see Sima Yoyue's disapproving look. It stretched its head in front of her and rubbed against her body. "Little gold, why don't you listen to me?" Sima Yue pulled a long face. Yeah, I can't control myself," Little Gold said with grievance. "I'm not saying that you can't eat it, but it's too dangerous." Sima Yue sighed. What if Little Gold couldn't digest it after eating it? What if there were some bad effects? No. Little Gold rubbed against her affectionately. "I can digest it." What if there's a spirit beast inside? What if it's still alive and does something to you? "Before that, I've already digested it," Little Gold said. "If you feel uncomfortable, tell me, okay?" Sima Yue reminded him worriedly. But Little Gold wrapped the thing in its stomach with its spirit power, but it didn't digest it immediately. With a shake of its body, it returned to its small and dainty appearance, and wrapped itself around Sima Yue's neck. "Let's continue," Sima Yue said to the others. They continued walking, and Hua pulled in Lei, who was still in a daze. At this moment, Lei finally recovered from the shock. She didn't expect that the little guy on Sima Yoyue's neck was an ancient divine beast. An ancient divine beast. An ancient divine beast that even the hidden clan didn't have. This new lady could take out expensive elixirs so casually, and not only did she have many spirit beasts, she was also so powerful. Her intuition told her that Sima Yoyue's background wasn't just this. Sima Yoyue's name was well known in the middle circle, but not everyone in the inner circle knew her. Of course, those mysterious black-clothed organizations definitely knew her, and they must hate her to the core. They continued walking, and before long, they saw a similar stone statue. Little Gold was eager to try again on her neck. Sima Yue grabbed it and said, "If you do something dangerous like that again, I'll throw you back." Goldie's tail, which was raised up, dropped down again. Anyway, if it wanted it, you would still give it to it, so it didn't want to snatch it. Seeing that Little Gold was obedient, Sima Yue walked over with Wu Lingyu. She reached out and touched the stone statue. It was very cold, and a murderous aura shot from her fingertips straight into her body. "Lingyu, is this a stone statue or a sealed primordial spirit beast?" Sima Yue asked. "I don't think anyone would come here to carve a stone statue," Wu Lingyu said. "So, both the one just now and this one are primordial spirit beasts?" Sima Yoyue's eyes lit up. "I wonder if they're dead or alive." "The possibility of them being alive is higher," Wu Lingyu said. "Look at the stone skin on the ground." Sima Yue looked at the thick layer of stone skin that had fallen around the stone statue. If it was wrapped up, the shape of the stone statue would probably be indistinguishable, and it would just be a very ordinary piece of ore. If it's a dead object, the stone skin shouldn't fall off. Her eyes lit up. Since so much of the stone skin has fallen off, it means that this guy is about to come out. I once heard that when a primordial spirit beast is sealed, if it hasn't been opened by someone after a certain period of time, it will come out by itself. "It seems that it's true," Wu Lingyu said. Little Gold was an ancient divine beast. It hadn't been sealed for a very long time, and it was opened by Sima Yue. And the one in front of them should be coming out by itself. "I wonder what it will look like when it comes out," she murmured as she circled the stone statue. "Let's put it away first and open it when there's time." She put the stone statue into the soul tower, and the people inside immediately surrounded the ore to study it. They continued to move forward, and not long after, they saw another stone statue. The first time was an opportunity, the second was luck, but what about the third time? Aren't there a little too many spirit beasts here? Sima Yue's mouth twitched. A little indeed. But there's no such thing as too many good things. Wu Lingyu looked at her and smiled. That's true. Sima Yue didn't study it this time, and directly put the stone statue into the soul tower. Let's continue forward. Hiss, Little Gold came down from her neck and flew to a stone, staring at her with its round eyes. Are we taking this too? Sima Yu asked. Yes, there's something good inside. Little Gold transmitted to her. Sima Yue walked over and saw that it was an ordinary ore. She reached out and touched the patterns on it, asking, "What's inside? Is it also a spirit beast?" I don't know, but there's a very strong aura inside, Little Gold said. Sima Yue didn't think about why they couldn't feel the aura inside, but Little Gold could. She believed Little Gold's words and moved the stone into the soul tower. And that one, there's something inside too, Little Gold said. Sima Yue moved the stone inside as well. All of you step back, Little Gold Snake said. What are you going to do? Sima Yue asked worriedly. There's still something good here, and I'm going to take it with me. All of you step it. Sima Yue conveyed Little Gold's meaning to the others, and they retreated to the side of the passage. Little Gold slowly grew bigger, and his tail grew longer and longer. He swung his tail hard and hit the wall, and the whole wall cracked like a spider's web. He swept his tail again, and the stone's skin fell off, revealing the strange-shaped stones inside. Those stones only protruded out, and they couldn't see their shape, so they didn't know what was inside. These are all ores? Little Seven asked Little Gold. Yes, but I don't know what's inside. Little Gold's voice was very happy. No matter what it was, it would be attracted to it. Sima Yue looked at those guys that were embedded in the stone wall. Some were 1 or 2 meters tall, and some were only the size of a palm. Little Seven, I'll leave these to you. You're so strong, so you can definitely dig them out. Sima Yue patted Little Seven's shoulder. Okay, watch me. Little Seven walked over and hid around the stone. After the stone wall loosened, she grabbed the stone and pulled it down. Chapter 1508. Enlai watched as Xiaoqi punched one after another. Soon, all the things on the wall were removed. Enlai watched as Seven punched one by one. In just a short while, all the things on the wall fell off. Sima Yue hugged one of the ores the size of a watermelon and touched its skin. She placed it under the flame and examined it for a while. There should be a herb inside. Xiaoqi was very interested in herbs. She ran over and said, "You, hurry up and cut it open." Seven was really interested in herbs and ran over. "You, quick, cut it open and take a look." Sima Yue was very interested in herbs. She ran over and said, "You, hurry up and cut it open." Sima Yue saw her anxious look and said, "Don't worry, what if it isn't? If you say it is, then it must be." Xiaoqi said with certainty. Her words were full of trust. Sima Yue smiled and squatted down. She took out the tools to cut open the stone and started to work. Ever since Enlai started following Sima Yue, she felt that her heart was constantly being shocked. Elixirs, medical skills, Mill, Xiaojin, Xiaoqi, and now she knew that Enlai was a spirit seeker. It was not uncommon for a spirit master with 2 professions to be in the Donglai clan. However, Enlai did not have a good environment like those in her clan, nor did she have as many resources. Sima Yue's speed was very fast. In a short while, the ore was only the size of a radish. Enlai wanted to take a closer look, so she unconsciously moved closer. Sima Yue carefully peeled off the last layer of the stone. Light leaked out from the cracks of the stone, and a fragrant smell hit her face, making her feel refreshed. It was indeed a spirit herb. Sima Yue looked at the unknown herb in her hand. The soil on the roots seemed to be still wet. "Do you recognize this?" She handed the herb to Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu took it, shook his head, and said, "No. This should be an extinct herb." Xiaoqi stared at the herb, but he did not eat it directly like Xiaojin. In this aspect, Xiaojin was like a child who just learned to eat and had no control over what he ate. Xiaoqi, on the other hand, was like a teenager. He wanted to eat, but he would not be so reckless. Sima Yue took the herb. It was a bit like a human leg, one on each side. She broke off one and handed it to Xiaoqi, then planted the other half with the roots in the spirit tower. Xiaoqi ate the spirit herb in a few bites, and when he was done, he smacked his lips twice, as if he was not satisfied. And Lei did not expect Sima Yue to let Xiaoqi eat the spirit herb without hesitation. A spirit herb from the immemorial era, if sold outside, would definitely be a priceless treasure. She did not reprimand Xiaojin for eating a stone statue, and now she gave Xiaoqi the spirit herb. She was really good to her contracted beast, and she was really different from those who only treated their contracted beasts as tools. Maybe she was different from Donglai Li. Maybe she was worth following. After making sure that little Ling had planted the other half of the spirit herb, she said to everyone, "Let's continue. Xiaojin, you have to find more useful ores." Xiaojin swooshed to the front, wagged his tail at Sima Yue, and then quickly swam forward. Sima Yue hurried after him with the others, and after a while, they saw Xiaoqi waiting for them on a big rock. "This too?" Sima Yue asked. "Hiss hiss." Xiaojin nodded and climbed down from the rock. Sima Yue went up and put the big rock away. It was so big, and they did not know what was inside. "There are so many stones like this here," and Lei said, seeing that there were many stones in other places. "It looks like they are all ores, but I don't know if there is anything inside." "Let's take it back first," Sima Yue said, and moved all the stones inside. "Miss, this place is so strange," and Lei said. "What's strange?" "This cave seems to have been excavated by someone. But if it was really dug by someone, why didn't they take these things away?" And Lei asked. "Anything that was thrown on the ground here would be a treasure if taken out of here. Who was the one who made it, and who was the one who threw it here?" Sima Yue had never thought about this question before, but now that she thought about it, it was indeed strange. "No matter who did it, and no matter what the reason was, it was all in the past," she said. "I have heard some rumors in the past," Wu Lingyu said. "I heard that someone once found the primordial mining area, but for some reason, they all disappeared, and the matter was left unsettled. However, at that time, a group of primordial spiritual beasts appeared. Therefore, many people guessed that those who came in were killed by those primordial spiritual beasts." Sima Yue knew that he was referring to hundreds of thousands of years ago. If it had been that time, even the bones would have dissipated. "Could it be that you are talking about this place?" Sima Yue said. "In that case, we have benefited from the ancient people." And Lei was speechless. Sima Yue's luck was too good. How could she encounter such a place? With so many people here, someone must have already found the entrance to the mining area. Others might not have said it, but based on her understanding of Donglai Li, she must have sensed it before. It was just that she did not like Sima Yue, so she did not say it. Now that they had left, Donglai Li must have brought the people from the Donglai clan into the mining area. If there was one, there would be another. If the Donglai clan could enter, the other clans must have entered as well. However, they did not see any traces of people coming in here, which meant that they were unique. She had encountered so many good things not long after she came in, and there was even a tunnel dug by her ancestors. She could no longer be described as lucky, right? They continued to walk forward, and she collected all the stones they saw along the way. She did not care if it was an ore or not. Even if it was an ordinary stone, she would still collect it. Anyway, the Soul Tower was very big, and there was no need to worry about not being able to fit it. Hiss hiss. Goldie suddenly stopped and flew to Sima Yue's neck, wrapping around her tightly. Sima Yue almost couldn't vent her anger. "What's wrong?" Sima Yue stroked Little Gold's head and comforted it. "I'm scared." Little Gold's head wrapped around her neck even more tightly. Sima Yue felt Little Gold's trembling. She patted its head and said, "Don't be afraid. We are here." She did not know what Little Gold felt in front of them, but no matter what happened, she and her beasts would be by its side. Hearing her words, Little Gold's body relaxed a little, but it still could not stop trembling. And Lei watched Sima Yue coax her spirit beast from behind. She remembered the scene where Donglai Li whipped her spirit beast because it did not do its job well. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that following Sima Yue was a good choice. She just did not know if she would treat her like how she treated her contract beast when they met the killers from the Donglai family. She did not think so. After all, she had just followed her. Why would she offend such a huge family for her? Let's go and see what scared our little gold like this. Sima Yoyue's clear voice broke her wild thoughts. She adjusted her mood and walked forward with her. Chapter 1509. After walking through the tunnel, they came to a vast cave. However, it was so clean that not even a stone could be seen. What could make Goldie afraid of? After walking through the tunnel, they came to a vast underground cave. However, it was so clean that there wasn't even a stone here. How could there be anything that could scare Xiao Jin? Sima Yue pulled it down from her neck and put it in her arms. Sima Yue pulled it down from her neck and kept it in her arms. Sima Yue pulled it down from her neck and put it in her arms. Goldie, what makes you so afraid? She stroked its back and calmed it down. Should she send Goldie to the Soul Tower? But if she did so, she would miss a lot of things. It's right in front. Goldie shrank in Yoyue's arms. In the shadow. Sima Yue enlarged the flame and the whole cave became brighter. Only then did she notice that there was a dent in front of them. She walked over with Goldie in her arms and saw a stone statue inside. The stone statue was about 2 meters tall and had a pointy head. She did not know what it was. At this time, there was movement in the Soul Tower. Sima Yue moved her mind, and Qi Yan appeared in front of everyone. Qi Yan, do you know what this is? Qi Yan rarely took the initiative to come out. Once it came out, there must be something. Ancestor. After saying that, Qi Yan turned into a beast and crawled in front of the stone statue. Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu were a little shocked. This stone statue trapped Qi Yan's ancestor. Wasn't that another vermilion bird? Could there be 2 divine birds in the world at the same time? Behind them, Enlei's eyes widened in shock. She was still thinking that after the previous surprise, she could already accept the surprises Sima Yue brought to others. Even if there was anything else, she would be able to accept it. However, now that she saw the divine bird vermilion bird with her own eyes, her heartbeat and her breathing seemed to no longer belong to her. The people in the cave did not dare to make a sound at this time, quietly watching Qi Yan worship the stone statue. Kacha, the faint sound was exceptionally clear in this quiet cave, attracting everyone's attention to the stone statue. Kacha, Kacha, with Qi Yan's worship, the stone skin on the stone statue began to peel off. It was more effective than the knives of those stone cutters. Could it be that another vermilion bird was coming out? Everyone was shocked by this idea. Since ancient times, there had never been 2 vermilion birds in the same place, right? Kacha, the stone skin fell layer by layer, and Qi Yan crawled on the ground, never raising his head from beginning to end. Finally, I waited for you, a faint sigh, with a taste of ancient desolation. The heavy majesty made Sima Yue and the others could not help but bow their heads. Greetings to the ancestors. Qi Yan's head hung lower. Fortunately, you are here. Although it is not in shape, at least the bloodline continues. In the future, this world will rely on you to protect. Do not forget your responsibility. The old vermilion bird taught earnestly. It must have been a competent divine bird in the past. The descendants will live up to the expectations of the ancestors. Today, I will pass on the inheritance to you to help you heal and restore your strength. A soft force enveloped Qi Yan. Was it contracted? The voice was full of doubts, as if it did not know how Qi Yan, a divine bird, could be contracted. Qi Yan felt his divine sense being swept, and then a long sigh sounded in his ears. Forget it, I didn't expect there to be such twists and turns. The old vermilion bird's voice was quite regretful, but he did not force him to terminate the contract. Even if you have contracted with someone, don't forget the responsibility on your shoulders. Yes. Since she's your master, then you should also give her a bit of fate. Sima Yue felt her body tremble, and a force was injected into her body, making her feel a faint sign of advancement. No, I can't advance here. Sima Yue asked Little Spirit to help her suppress the force, and it took a while for her body to recover. Why don't you advance? The questioning voice was angry at being contradicted. I can't advance now. Sima Yue looked up, and only then did she see the old vermilion bird's appearance. No, She did not see the old vermilion bird's appearance clearly, because his body was emitting a faint halo. It was not dazzling, but she could not see his appearance clearly. Every time I advance, there will be a thunder tribulation. If I advance now, it will cause a lot of trouble. Sima Yue said. The old vermilion bird was silent and did not say anything, but Sima Yue felt that the way he looked at her was a little different. It's not bad to be able to resist the temptation and distinguish the current situation. The old vermilion bird said, with such a temperament, you can also shoulder the responsibility with it in the future. In the future, I will leave it to you. Ancestor? Qi Yen felt endless sorrow, and his voice was a little choked. I will finish what I have not finished. The old vermilion bird's voice gradually faded, and all the light that enveloped him poured into Qi Yan's body, and even his power was given to Qi Yen. Only then did everyone see the old vermilion bird's appearance clearly. At this moment, it was not as alive as everyone thought it would be. In front of everyone, it was simply a lifeless corpse. A corpse of a vermilion bird that had been dead for millions or even hundreds of millions of years. Because it was sealed by spirit stones, it did not seem to have decomposed much. The one who spoke just now was probably its remnant consciousness. And looking at Qi Yan's appearance, it should have known long ago. Qi Yan. Seeing that he was still lying on the ground, Sima Yue suddenly felt a little sorry for him. Other spirit beasts had clansmen, but he did not. One was born and one would die. He would always be alone. Even if there would be the worship of hundreds of birds, that kind of loneliness, who could understand that kind of unparalleled loneliness? The old vermilion bird had also experienced this kind of loneliness, right? So when he learned that Qi Yan was accompanied by her, he was not particularly angry. From Qi Yan's memory, he knew that Qi Yan was not as lonely as he was. He had her and so many spirit beasts to accompany him sincerely, and he would not repeat his own mistakes. Shao Qi and the others all felt the sadness in his heart, and could not help but shed tears. Qi Yan stood up, turned into a human form and said, I am going back to seclusion. Ancestor, gave me some inheritance that I did not have before. Sima Yue went up and gave him a hug and said, no matter when, you have us. You are not alone. Wu Lingyu stared at the two of them, and the faint eyes were about to freeze the cave. Don't be angry, don't be angry. But it was still an eyesore. I know. Qi Yan was not afraid of Wu Lingyu's eyes, but he still let go of her. Although he never said it, he was actually very glad that she accompanied him and slowly walked out of the low valley. When he was most vulnerable, most helpless, and most in need of help in his life, she appeared. Although he took the initiative to contract, but without her, he might have really died now, in the broken small cave of Yi-Lin continent, forever silent. It's good to have you here. Chapter 1510. Recommended reading. What about the bones of your ancestor? Sima Yue pointed to the old vermilion bird in the cave. First post, if it was the bones of other spirit beasts, she might have some thoughts. After all, these were all good materials for refining. But since it was Qi Yan's ancestor, forget it. I'll bring it back, it can help me understand. Maybe it will have other uses in the future. Qi Yan thought about it and did not directly decide for the bones. However, he did not mean that it could not be desecrated. Maybe it could be used in the future. Sima Yue nodded. His ancestor, he had the most right to decide. Although I am in retreat, it is not a death retreat. If there is any danger, just call me. Qi Yan looked at Shao Qi and Hua Hua with some concern. They were still not strong enough. Although there was Wu Lingyu, he was still not so assured. Don't worry, if there is really anything, I will call you. Sima Yue said. That's good. Sima Yue put away the bones of Qi Yan and the old vermilion bird and sighed in his heart. They really did not expect to meet the old vermilion bird here. At this time, they could not think about who killed it and how it appeared here. They could only sigh that the world was unpredictable. Perhaps Qi Yan, who had received the inheritance, would know. Qi Yan and the old vermilion bird disappeared, and the atmosphere in the cave returned to normal. Phew, I was scared to death. Little Gold came out of Sima Yoyue's arms, shook his head, and relaxed his body. It was really scared just now. If it happened a few more times, it was estimated that it would directly be paralyzed. In fact, with the ground contract with Qi Yen, Little Gold should not be afraid of enemies such as birds. However, the old vermilion bird's breath was stronger than Qi Yan's, and it was from the immemorial age. It could not resist the suppression that went deep into the bone marrow. It's okay now. Sima Yue patted Little Gold. Now, it wasn't the only one who was shocked. Perhaps everyone was shocked by this matter. Even if it was just the remains of the old vermilion bird from the immemorial age, it was enough to shock them. They wanted to continue forward, but their legs were weak, and they could not move at all. Let's rest here. Wu Lingyu saw that Sima Yue's expression was not very good, so he suggested. Sima Yue looked at Enlei. She was scared just now, but fortunately, Enlei was really scared. She nodded. You haven't rested for so long. Let's rest here. Enlei knew that Sima Yue was doing it for her own good. She smiled gratefully, then sat down cross-legged, and began to adjust her internal injuries. It was no wonder that she felt so uncomfortable. Although her strength was much higher than Sima Yue had a contract with Qi Yen, so she was much more immune to the aura of the vermilion bird. Xiao Qi and the others also benefited from the contract, so the suppression did not hurt them much. Only she, from the time the old vermilion bird came out, until the bones disappeared, she forcibly endured its suppression. At this moment, her 5 viscera and 6 bowels felt like they were about to overturn the sky, and there was a burning pain. Eat this elixir. Sima Yue's voice sounded above her head, and an emerald green elixir was handed to her. Miss, you must have been injured by the suppression just now. This elixir can help you to alleviate the situation in your body. Sima Yue saw her pale face and said, if you fall here, then the road ahead will be troublesome. Although Enlei did not say it, Sima Yue could see her situation at a glance. Forcing herself to recuperate naturally would not be as fast as the elixir. Enlei did not refuse. She took the elixir, thanked her, and swallowed it. She did not ask Sima Yue what elixir it was, nor did she suspect that there was anything wrong with it. She believed that Sima Yue would not harm her. There was nothing for her to harm. The elixir quickly took effect. Her burning internal organs felt a chill, and she instantly felt much better. They rested for a while and continued to walk forward, picking up many ores along the way. Sometimes, Little Gold would be very excited. With a sweep of its tail, it would sweep out a pile of ores from the wall, and Little Qi would dig them out. Sometimes, when Little Gold was very excited, she would ask Little Ling to put them away. There must be good things in them. And Lei followed her. At first, she was surprised, but later, she slowly became numb. Along the way, Sima Yue had picked up countless ores. Even if the probability of there being jade was not high, there were still many good things. Thinking of this, she remembered Sima Yue's identity as a spirit-seeking master. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Suddenly, an angry roar shocked Sima Yue and the others. Then, a figure quickly ran over from the tunnel ahead, brushing past Sima Yue and the others, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Sima Yue clung tightly to the wall, her palms sweating from fear. She looked at Wu Lingyu and thanked him. At the moment when the spirit beast rushed over, Wu Lingyu used an enchantment to protect all of them, so that the spirit beast did not feel their aura and did not attack them. However, they were still shocked by the guy who suddenly rushed over. Such a strong ancient aura. And Lei murmured, that is an ancient spirit beast? It should be, Sima Yue said. I didn't expect that we would actually see an ancient spirit beast. If that's the case, the spirit beasts here are indeed starting to come out. For these living things, the spirit stone seal also has a certain time limit, Wu Lingyu said. Once the time limit is up, they will naturally come out. Why would it happen at this time? Sima Yue was a little confused. No one had discovered it before, but now that someone had come in, it was time for the spirit beasts to come out. The spirit beasts of the primordial era are much stronger than the spirit beasts of today. This world is degenerating. Sima Yue rarely saw Wu Lingyu sigh, so she always thought that he was indifferent to everything. Be careful on the road ahead. Since a spirit beast has awakened, there may be others coming out, Sima Yue reminded Xiao Qi and the others. Yes, we know. Xiao Jin and the others nodded repeatedly. As spirit beasts, they were more afraid of the spirit beasts of the primordial era than humans like Sima Yue. After walking for half a day, they could already feel the aura of the primordial era rushing towards them. Could it be that many primordial spirit beasts have already come out? Sima Yue was shocked. Wu Lingyu held her hand and said, "Whether it is or not, we will know once we go over and take a look." They walked forward cautiously, passing through the narrow tunnel, and the front suddenly widened. Sima Yue and the others saw the scene in the cave. Those who have read The Most Spoiled Wife, The Fifth Miss Miracle Doctor, still like. Chapter 1511. Sima Yue saw the disgust in her eyes and said, "How pitiful! She's such a good girl, but I don't think she'll be able to show her hand in the future." Li likes perfection. Xian Qiu, he said, "This girl's hand is not good, so she shouldn't follow you." Sima Yue glanced at Xian Qiu he. Was it a coincidence that he said that? But how can I? Eastern Li bit her lips and seemed to be in a difficult position. You don't want it anymore? Miss Dong Li, if you don't want it, why don't you give it to me? Sima Yue said. For you? Eastern Li looked at Sima Yue. What did she mean by this? That's right. I'm thinking that having a servant girl from a hidden family as my servant girl would be a very awesome thing if word got out. Sima Yue smiled brilliantly, as if she had picked up a treasure. No, Enlei was born in the family. Before her parents passed away, they entrusted her to the Eastern Li family. We can't treat her like this, Eastern Li rejected. Oh, I see. No wonder you're willing to spend 700,000 top-grade crystals to save her life. Sima Yue said, so, you're going to treat her hands too? Although the price is a little high, fortunately, it can be cured. Li, I know you want her to stay in the family for her own good, but she is not suitable now. Xian Qiu, he said, with the way she is now, if your family still remembers her parents' friendship, then let her choose her own path. Sima Yue was not curious about what happened back then. She was surprised that Xian Qiu he knew about it. Could it be that something sensational happened back then? She's just a lowly servant girl. What qualifications does she have to choose her own path? Shu-ei? Snorted coldly. At this moment, the steward of the Eastern Li clan came to Eastern Li's side and said something. Eastern Li looked at Enlei strangely. Sima Yue knew that the person in charge must have used some method to prevent them from hearing their conversation. The steward of the Eastern Li clan was called Eastern Li He. He looked very young and cold. It was said that his position in the Eastern Li clan was not low, but he kept a very low profile. One could even say that he was a man of few words. Along the way, Eastern Li was the one making the arrangements. He would only speak occasionally. She didn't know what he was talking to Eastern Li about. I said that you want to discuss her whereabouts, and I have no objection to that. However, can you pay for the previous 2 pills first? She asked aloud. She spoke very straightforwardly. She stared at Eastern Li as if she was afraid that they would not admit to it. Dong Lei had just finished speaking and retreated to the side. He was deep in thought and didn't seem to care about what was happening here. Isn't it just crystals? How can my Eastern Li clan be short of yours? Eastern Li smiled. However, before that, I have to deal with something first. Then hurry up. Sima Yue said unhappily. Eastern Li came in front of Enlei. She had already used the bandage that had fallen on the ground to wrap around her hand. Enlei. Eastern Li's back was facing the crowd as she looked at Enlei with a cold and emotionless gaze. Young mistress. Enlei suppressed the fear in her heart so that she didn't look that scared. Fourth uncle told me just now. I didn't expect father and the rest to promise your parents that if you want to leave the Eastern Li clan one day, we will not stop you. Since we have brought this up today, let me ask you one question. Do you want to leave? Enlei was stunned. Everyone else was stunned too. Even Sima Yue was the same. Sima Yue was still thinking of using her own methods to make Eastern Lai Li and the rest give up on Enlei. In the blink of an eye, the opportunity was placed in front of her. Eastern Lai Li saw that she was in a daze. The bandage on her hand had unknowingly fallen off and revealed her sharp finger bones. Disgust flashed across her eyes. Enlei's shock was pierced by that gaze. Her divine senses returned to her body. She bowed and said, "Young master, he is right. Young mistress is so noble. You shouldn't have a servant like me by your side. I want to leave." "Have you made your decision?" Eastern Lai Li wasn't surprised to hear this answer. If she chose to betray today, she would have to bear the consequences of her betrayal tomorrow. No one could betray her. Enlei nodded her head firmly. "Since you have made your decision, you are no longer a member of the Eastern Lai clan. Today, I will remove the Eastern Lai clan symbol for you. In the future, if anything happens to you, the Eastern Lai clan will no longer stand up for you. And you can no longer use the Eastern Lai clan's name to walk around outside. Do you understand?" "I understand." Eastern Lai Li placed her hand on Enlei's forehead. Then, a ray of light rushed out from her body. At this moment, the aura on her body was different from Shui and the rest. Enlei didn't know if it was because she couldn't bear the impact on her body or because she couldn't bear the mental relaxation. She sat down on the ground. Eastern Lai Li didn't look at her again and said, "Our master-servant relationship ends here. In the future, take care of yourself." After saying that, she turned around and left. She came to Sima Yue and said, "Miss Yue, now that Enlei is no longer a member of the Eastern Lai clan, what should we say about the consultation fee?" Sima Yue could tell at a glance that she didn't intend to pay, but the expression on her face was filled with silent threats. As a little girl from a small place, she naturally had to follow the wishes of this eldest Mississippi. Since Enlei is no longer your servant, then this money. Naturally, you don't have to pay for it. She gritted her teeth as she spoke. Miss Yue is indeed sensible. Eastern Lai Li smiled. However, we can't just let this matter rest for 700,000 high-grade crystals. I will ask her for the money. After Sima Yue finished speaking, she ran to Enlei and stretched out her hand. "Money? What money?" Enlei seemed to have regained her senses at this moment. She looked at Sima Yue with a puzzled expression. "Of course it's the money for those 2 pills. Now that you are no longer a member of the Eastern Lai clan, Miss Eastern Lai has no obligation to pay for you. So pay up." I don't have money." Enlei lowered her head. "You don't have money? Aren't all the servant girls from big clans very rich?" Sima Yue said, "Don't try to fool me just because I came from a small place. I really don't have money." Enlei lowered her head even more. Other servant girls might have money, but her money had long been snatched away by others. "This is difficult." Sima Yue touched her chin. "If I knew that you would end up like this, I wouldn't have saved you. I even had to pay for so many rare herbs. Sigh, looks like the joke just now is going to come true. You are really going to be my servant." "How is that possible?" Enlei cried out. Sima Yue's back was facing everyone. Only Enlei saw her expression and cooperated by calling out. "Impossible? Then pay me back. Otherwise, you can call her Miss." Chapter 15:12. Enlei looked at Sima Yue as if she had been humiliated. "In other people's eyes, I'm from the hidden clan, so how can I be your servant?" She and Sima Yue were seated with one of them facing the crowd while the other had her back facing the crowd. Hence, everyone could only see her expression and not Sima Yue's face. "Sima Yue, don't go overboard. No matter what, she came from the hidden clan. How can she be your maidservant?" Shui cried out. "Wouldn't this make it seem like she was the same as her young miss? That would be too degrading to the young miss status." Sima Yue turned around to look at Shui and said, "According to what you're saying, you're planning to help her pay back the 700,000 high-grade crystals? How is that possible? Not to mention the fact that she didn't have that many crystals. Even if she did, she wouldn't help Enlei return the money. Since you're not returning it, who's willing to return it for her?" Sima Yue looked around and everyone from the Donglai family took a step back. They were just maidservants and guards. How could they have so much spare money to help someone who had betrayed the Eastern Lai clan? Yes, even though Enlei left under such circumstances, she was still a traitor in their eyes. Sima Yue shrugged. Since you don't want to help her pay back the money, then I have no choice. You can't let me suffer a loss, right? Am I right, Miss Donglai? Her meaning was very clear. You've already agreed on this matter before, and now you're going back on your word. It's good enough that I didn't ask you for money. If you stop me from taking in more maidservants, will you compensate me for my loss? Since she's free now, our Eastern Lai clan naturally won't interfere with her, the Eastern Lai clan declared. Anyway, she had no intention of letting Enlei and Sima Yue go. Although Xian Qiu he said that Sima Yue saved them, she did not think so. She still felt that Xian Qiu he saved her. Therefore, she had never treated Sima Yue as her savior. Instead, she treated Sima Yue as her love rival. Rival in love? Xian Qiu he clearly did not express his love for Sima Yue. Sima Yue clearly had Wu Lingyu by her side. Why did she feel that she was an eyesore? Did you hear that? Your mistress has no objections. Sima Yue turned around and looked at Enlei. So, have you thought it through? Should she sell her body to repay him or sell her body to repay him? I don't think the people taught by the Donglai clan would go so far as to deny it, would they? Everyone's lips twitched. How was she giving him a choice? He clearly only gave others one path. Her last sentence was very harsh. If she continued to deny it, it would mean that the Donglai family did not teach her well. I promise you. Mississippi, Enlei lowered her head. It was as if she was doing all this to protect the reputation of the Eastern Lai family. At least you know what's good for you. Shui? Snorted coldly. In such a situation he still knew how to protect the family's image. However, she didn't expect that she would become someone else's servant after getting rid of the Donglai clan. This was also a slap to the Donglai clan's face. Since you're my servant, you'll have to be branded with my brand. Sima Yue sent a strand of divine sense into Enlei's body. If Enlei betrayed her, it would cost her her life. This was an inspiration she got from Eastern Lai Li. If Eastern Lai Li didn't take back the Donglai clan's brand, she wouldn't have thought of this point. She could only let Enlei swear. That's good. She retracted her hand and smiled. However, I don't know if you're worth 700,000 top-grade crystals. Enlei was silent. She didn't reply to her. She lowered her head and no one knew what she was thinking. Yue, since you've settled your matters, can you come and take a look at these corpses? Xian Qiu he didn't rush her other than adding fuel to the fire just now. Wait a moment. Let me bandage her hand first, Sima Yue said. She took out the ointment and applied it on Enlei again. Then, she wrapped the bandage around her hand. Enlei realized that her hand felt much better after the ointment was applied. She looked at Sima Yue suspiciously. Sima Yue smiled. Of course I have to use better ones for my own people. You rest here. I'll go over there to take a look. Enlei realized that Sima Yue's smile had a healing power. She nodded subconsciously. Sima Yue pulled Wu Lingyu to the side of the corpses and checked them one by one. Miss Yue, how is it? Xian Qiu he asked. It's just as I guessed. Not only have these corpses had their blood sucked dry, the death aura on their wounds has corrosive properties. Sima Yue said. I don't know if it was like this in the past or if these corpses have evolved. However, one thing is for sure. The person who raised them must have spent a lot of effort. Many people must have died. I think that if you want to investigate, you can investigate from the places where many people died. Villages and cities were massacred or where many people went missing. I don't think so. News from the inner regions has always spread quickly. If there was a massacre, the news should have been out long ago. Xian Qiu he said. That's right. Do you really know what's going on? You're not spouting nonsense, right? Shui scoffed. Sima Yue ignored her and said, if there weren't many deaths, then this matter would be even more troublesome. What do you mean? Xian Qiu he could feel the seriousness in her words. He couldn't help but sit up straight. It's certain that they are using human blood to nourish these corpses. If there's a massacre in the city, it's very easy for big forces like you to find clues. However, I think that the most likely situation now is that there are scattered people going missing in the inner regions. You won't be able to find anything even if you want to. Everyone was silent. She was right. If there was a massacre, it wouldn't be difficult to find anything. However, if there were only a few dozen or a few hundred people going missing, no one would notice. Because this kind of situation was too common in the continent where martial arts were respected. TSK, you said that you know if it's true. Shui scoffed. If it's true, then why didn't they turn into skeletons like Enlay? The others had the same question too. That's because they're already dead. Death aura only affects living people. Sima Yue explained. Send a message back to the clan. Let them arrange for their subordinates to investigate. Xian Qiu he instructed. Since he said so, then let's send a message back to the clan. Eastern Lai Li said, Fourth uncle, we'll have to trouble you with this. Eastern Lai he nodded and went to the side to send a message to the clan. Do you still want to look at these corpses? If you don't, then burn them. There's death aura on them. We can only burn them. Sima Yue said. I don't want to look at them. Burn them. Eastern Lai Li frowned in disgust. Chapter 1513. These corpses were useless. Those people did not dare to touch the corpses. Sima Yu ignited a few flames and burned those corpses to ashes. That's right, when we just arrived, we saw those people bring some corpses away. What did they bring the corpses for? Shui asked. Sima Yue rolled her eyes in her heart. She thought to herself, what an IQ. Who are those cloaked people? Xian Qiuhe's voice was as gentle as ever, but Sima Yue felt that something was amiss. Who was the person in the cloak? Dead people. What else could he do with those corpses? Of course, he was going to take it back and turn it into a corpse. How could he ask such a simple question? If he wasn't stupid, then what was? Shui also reacted and regretted asking such an idiotic question. Sima Yue thought for a while and said, if you want to investigate, I can give you some clues. But it might not be accurate. I heard it on the way. Clues. The Yang family of the 16th prefecture might have something to do with this. Sima Yue said, but as I said just now, it's just hearsay. I don't know if it's true. If you want to investigate, it has nothing to do with me. Send this news back as well. Get people to pay more attention to the Yang family's movements. Xian Qiu he believed her without hesitation. Eastern Lai Li hesitated for a moment but didn't say anything. Obviously, he didn't believe her words. Sima Yue did not insist. Anyway, it was up to her whether to say it or not. It was up to others whether to believe it or not. If it wasn't for the fact that she wanted to lessen the pressure on Uncle He, she wouldn't have brought up the Yang family. It's getting late, let's find a place to set up camp. Xian Qiu he said. After arriving at the oasis, they would not travel at night, but they would often hear the sounds of fighting. There were corpses here. Although they couldn't be seen now, it still made people feel uncomfortable. So they walked a little further before setting up camp. Sima Yue set up her tent some distance away from the Donglai clan and there was still the Xian Qiu clan in between. And Lei hesitated in front of the tent before entering Sima Yue's tent. Sima Yue glanced at Wu Lingyu. The latter understood and waved his hand to set up a barrier. And Lei was a little confused, but she didn't ask anything. She probably wanted to ask about the Donglai family. When the time comes, should he say it or not? Come here, Sima Yue said. And Lei walked over. Since she was now her master, what reason did she have to be disobedient? No matter what I do later, don't resist. Sima Yue stretched out her hand. And Lei instinctively took a step back and looked at her warily. What are you trying to do? He had already left a mark in her body. Was that not enough? When Eastern Lai Li extracted the Eastern Lai clan's imprint from your body, she also imprinted her own imprint into your body. I don't need to tell you the consequences, do I? And Lei's body trembled. Of course she knew the consequences. She saw a faint line on her wrist and her lips curled into a bitter smile. What else could it be other than the Eastern Lai clan's thousands of miles of tracking that she didn't notice? Once she had this mark on her body, Eastern Lai Li would be able to find her no matter where she was. She was someone who had betrayed her clan. She knew what this mark on her body was for. They wanted to kill her. How did you know? She looked at Sima Yue. Don't forget that you have my imprint in your body. Sima Yue said, we should be able to enter the mining area in 2 days. I don't want you to bring any danger to us. Come on. And Lei didn't ask if she could remove the mark on her body. Since she could discover it, removing it shouldn't be a problem. Sima Yu's knowledge of the soul was very high, and with Wu Lingyu's guidance, it was no problem for her to remove this kind of imprint. The process was a little painful, but luckily it didn't take long. Within a few minutes, Sima Yue removed the mark on Enlei's body. Without the thin thread on her wrist, the Eastern Lai clan wouldn't be able to track her anymore. It's done. Sima Yue wiped the sweat off her forehead. Her face was a little pale. Enlei looked straight at her and asked blankly, why? What? Why did you save me? To remove the mark, she had used up a lot of energy. It wasn't easy. What do you mean by why? Sima Yue took out a pill and ate it. You're my person. Of course I have to ensure that you won't be killed by the Eastern Lai clan. I still have other uses for you in the future. Use her in the future? Enlei lowered her head. But why did she feel that Sima Yue's eyes didn't say that? Take this pill. Your hand will be fine in 2 days. Sima Yue passed her a bottle of pills. Enlei took the pill suspiciously. She ate one when she went back. That night her hand felt itchy. The next day, when Sima Yue applied the medicine on her hand, she realized that she had started to gain weight. It's so magical? She looked at her hand in disbelief. The pills I gave you are made of ingredients that can revive the dead. How can it not be fast? Sima Yue said as she applied the medicine. 1 pill costs a few $100,000. Do you think I'm bragging? Then I can't eat anymore. Enlei remembered that there were still 2 pills in the bottle. She couldn't eat anymore. Just eat it. Once your hand is healed, you can help me when we reach the mining area. You won't be a hindrance to me. Sima Yue said, although this pill is precious, it's nothing to me. Just eat it. Why did she feel like she was a nouveau riche? Thank you, Mississippi. It was still a little awkward. At the same time, she was shocked. In their eyes, a little girl from a small place had such a good foundation. While they were talking, Sima Yue had already bandaged her hand again. She reminded her to remember to take the pill so that her hand could recover quickly. After 2 days, they left the grassland and entered the mountainous area. At the same time, it meant that they had already entered the ancient mining area. The vegetation on the mountain was destroyed, which meant that many people had already entered. They walked around the mountain for more than half a month and saw many people. However, they didn't even see a single mine. Some people were already anxious, including Eastern Lai Li. Miss, even you can't sense anything? When they were resting, the people from the Eastern Lai family surrounded her and asked, I can't sense anything. Eastern Lai Li shook her head. I can sense it from all directions, but we didn't see anything. Her voice was a little defeated. Don't be anxious. If even you can't find it, the others won't be able to either. Let's take it slow. Xian Qiu, he comforted her. Okay. After he said that, Eastern Lai Li wasn't so anxious anymore. Sima Yue was at the side. She removed Enlei's bandage and saw that her hand had recovered. She smiled and said, How is it? I told you that it would recover, right? Everyone's attention was attracted over. Chapter 15-14. Enlei, how did your hand heal? Shui cried out in surprise. Enlei clenched her fists. The feeling of her flesh hadn't changed. Her hand was really healed. When Sima Yue told her that she would recover in less than half a month, she was still doubtful. But now, she was completely convinced. Enlei, I'm talking to you. How dare you ignore me? When Shui saw that she was ignoring her, she walked over and shouted. And Lei glanced at her and recalled what Sima Yue had said to her. Why should I care about you? I'm no longer your subordinate. What right do you have to scold me? When had Shui ever been contradicted by An Lei like this? She reached out and wanted to hit her. Miss Shui, An Lei is now one of my people. If you hit her, are you going against me? Sima Yu stood up and looked at Shu with a gaze that made people shudder. How could this person have such a gaze? I know that you are unhappy with us because I made An Lei my servant. You feel that I have embarrassed you. If it wasn't for Xian Qiuhe, I reckon you guys would have chased us away long ago. Sima Yue interrupted her. Actually, it's easy to make us leave. You can just say it. You don't have to beat around the bush. These days, the Donglai family had been targeting Sima Yue and the rest. If it wasn't for the fact that they were waiting for An Lei to slap their faces, they would have left long ago. Xian Qiuhe's face darkened and he crossed his hands. The Xian Qiu clan knew that he was unhappy. When Eastern Lai Li saw this, she smiled and said, Yue's words are too serious. We didn't mean that. Really? Of course. Eastern Lai Li said, you are his friend, why would we want to chase you away? Regarding An Lei's matter, it was her own fault for not being able to return the money to you. She's also not a member of the Donglai family. Naturally, this has nothing to do with us. Don't misunderstand. Really? Of course. Yue were already here. It's too dangerous for you to leave on your own. Xian Qiuhe said, come with us. I don't really care about danger. I'm just afraid that when the time comes, they'll say that we relied on their help to find the mine. Sima Yue said, we don't know you very well. In order to prevent this from happening, it's better for us to leave. Are we really leaving? Xian Qiuhe asked. Xian Qiuhe looked in Wu Lingyu's direction and was silent for a while before saying, all right then, if there's any danger, contact me. He took out the mother-son stone for communication and gave it to her. Sima Yue took it over. Half a year later, I will wait for you at the exit. Xian Qiuhe said again. Sima Yue wanted to say that there was no need, but she remembered that she still had to ask him about the divine medicine, so she could only nod her head. Half a year should be enough. Give me your temporary life tablet. Xian Qiuhe said. Sima Yue took out a piece of jade and dripped a drop of blood on it. She injected some spiritual energy into the jade and the blood merged with the jade. A temporary life tablet was created. If you don't come out after a long time, you can go back. As for your body, I will look for you later. Sima Yue said. All right. Xian Qiuhe didn't say that he would definitely wait for her. If he did, there would be pressure on both of them. Goodbye. Wu Lingyu held Sima Yue's hand and left without any reluctance. He had wanted to leave long ago. He wasn't in a good mood when faced with someone who was looking at his woman. An Lei and Hua Hua quickly chased after them. The four of them quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Eastern Lai Li saw that Sima Yue had left and felt relaxed all over. Her mood was much better. Let's continue looking. She smiled and said to Xian Qiuhe, I think we should part ways here. Xian Qiuhe said, since we're already here, there won't be so much danger later on. Eastern Lai Li didn't expect Xian Qiuhe to suddenly say that they were leaving. She was stunned for a moment. Although our families are on good terms, this isn't a small matter. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble later on, it's better to part ways here. Xian Qiuhe didn't give her a chance to speak and continued, if you encounter any danger, you can contact me. Goodbye. Elder Ji, let's go. Then he really left with the Xianqiu clan. As a woman, Eastern Lai Li didn't ask him to stay. She could only watch as he gradually left. She actually wanted to say that she had already sensed the location of the mining area. However, because Sima Yue was there, she said that she couldn't sense it. She also wanted to say that if the two families had differences, she was willing to give in to him. Feeling the coldness from her body, no one from the Eastern Lai clan dared to speak up. After a while, she recovered and said, let's go. Since he didn't appreciate her kindness, she didn't need to force him. She could talk about the future later. Now, she had to solve the mining area first. If she could gain something this time, it would be best if she could get some ancient spirit beasts. Then, the Eastern Lai clan's status among the few big hidden families would skyrocket. As for the personal affairs, it was better to leave them for later. After Sima Yue left them, she walked slowly in front with Wu Lingyu. They weren't in a hurry to find the mineral vein. Hua Hua was behind them. She hugged a tree branch and chewed on it. After eating for so long, it was hard on her teeth. And Lei looked at the three of them leisurely. How did they look like they were here to look for treasure? Miss, aren't you anxious? She couldn't help but ask. What's there to be anxious about? Sima Yue had a smile on her face. Little Gold went to sleep. Little Gold went to sleep? What did that mean? Sima Yue didn't say much. And Lei would slowly find out about her matters in the future. A few days later, Lei finally understood what she meant when she said that Little Gold went to sleep. Looking at Little Gold's sleepy face, she was instantly captivated by its cuteness. Yu. Little Gold realized that it was in Sima Yue's hands the moment it woke up. It rubbed against her palm. Little Gold, there's something you like here. Sima Yue said. Something I like? Little Gold was stunned at first. Then it stood up excitedly. I smell it. It's so tempting. Bring us there. Sima Yue smiled and patted its head. Little Gold quickly climbed onto Sima Yue's neck and circled around it. It used its tail to guide the way. They followed Little Gold's guidance and crossed over the mountains. After a few days, they finally arrived at a mountain that wasn't very high. It's here, Little Gold said as it was about to jump down. However, it was caught by Sima Yue. Don't be anxious. Let's observe the situation first. Sima Yue released some scarlet bees and let them fly into the mountain. Not long after, those scarlet bees all died for some reason. Her face darkened. It's not easy to enter this place. Chapter 15:15. After that, she tried again, but the scarlet bee still died not long after entering. This meant that this was not a coincidence. Let's take a look at our surroundings first. She released a few scarlet bees to scout the surroundings. He didn't know if those people had gone in or if they hadn't discovered this place, but there was no one around. Lingyu, are we going in? She was still a little worried about the situation inside. Let's go. Wu Lingyu took her hand and walked into the mountains. Sima Yue thought for a while and decided to call Mi Air out. He would be useful in such a place. And Lei was shocked when she saw the smaller version of Sima Yue. Only then did she know that it was her contracted beast. What kind of contract beast was this? He didn't have the aura of a spirit beast. You always think of me last. Mi Air crossed his arms in front of his chest and said proudly, You're a big shot. Of course, you have to come out at the most crucial moment. Sima Yue smiled and said, Now that we are not underground, you can't feel the aura of Sure even if you come out, right? Moreover, this is an ancient mine. I wonder if it's as powerful as an ordinary mine. Excuses. Mi Air snorted. We're going in. Are you coming? If you're not going, we're leaving. At that time, if something happens to me, I'll go. Mi Air gritted his teeth. If she was gone, could he still live? Seriously, couldn't she coax him a little more? Wawa, what kind of spirit beast is he? Why does she look so similar to Miss? And Lei and Hua Hua walked behind and asked. Mir? He's not a spirit beast. Hua Hua said, he's just a ball of energy. Because he doesn't have a shape, he took the form of Yu. And Lei was shocked. How could something like this develop intelligence and contract with it? Then is he very powerful? And Lei regretted asking. If he wasn't powerful, Miss wouldn't have called him out at this moment. However, she was still unsure because Sima Yue's background was too weak. It was hard to believe that a person from a small place would have a powerful spiritual beast. Just a little stronger than us. Hua Hua wasn't happy, but he had to admit Mi Air's strength. A pervert. If he was only slightly stronger than Hua Hua and the others, then he shouldn't be that strong. And Lei thought to herself. However, she didn't seem to know how strong Hua Hua was. Mi Air came out and Little Seven also wanted to come out. Sima Yue had no choice but to call Little Seven out. The others in the spirit pagoda clenched their fists unwillingly. However, they were not as strong as Little Seven and the others. If they went out, they might drag them down. It was better to go into seclusion and cultivate. Little Dream had the ability, but she had to stay in the spirit pagoda to accompany Little Roar. Sima Yuiwe and the others entered the mountain. There were still some vegetation outside, but here, it could be said that it was almost bare. After walking for a while, Sima Yue found the corpses of the scarlet bees on the ground. She kept them in the spirit pagoda and let Little Spirit bury them. We didn't feel anything strange here. How did the scarlet bees die here? She looked at Wu Lingyu suspiciously. Wu Lingyu looked at the surrounding ground and said, "Be careful. There should be some kind of power coming out from underground." Then this is the mining area? Should we go down from here? Wu Lingyu closed his eyes and sensed for a while, saying, "No need. There's a cave in front. It should be underground." He held Sima Yue's hand and walked forward. Sima Yue turned back to look at Hua Hua and Mi Air, saying, "You two have to protect Enlei." But Hua Hua was more familiar with Enlei during this period of time. She wasn't unhappy that she was asked to protect Enlei. Mi Air glanced at Sima Yue and didn't say a word. He was still unhappy. However, he didn't say no. If something really happened, he would still take action. They walked forward for a few hundred meters. Suddenly, a power rushed out from the ground and spread out in all directions. The power was strong and fast. In just a breath's time, it spread out 100 meters. The moment the power came out, Wu Lingyu hugged Sima Yue and pulled Little Seven. He teleported into the air and successfully avoided the attack. Sima Yue looked up. Mia was holding one in each hand. He looked at the power below and was deep in thought. Enlei's body was still covered in cold sweat. She could feel the terrifying power below. If she was below, she definitely wouldn't be able to escape. Luckily, Mi Air brought them into the air when Wu Lingyu moved. Seeing that Hua Hua was still chewing on the tree branch, she was envious of her calmness. Hua Hua saw her lingering fear and smiled. "Don't worry. With Mi Air here, we'll be fine." Mi Air snorted. He let go of Hua Hua and she fell. Just as she was about to land, a flower appeared on the ground and caught her. Enlei was shocked. Just as she was about to scream, she realized that the power had disappeared. Wu Lingyu brought Sima Yue back to the ground. Xiao Jin was very excited and kept flicking her tongue. "This is the smell. Yu, this is the smell," Xiao Jin said excitedly. "Don't be anxious. We'll go in soon," Sima Yue said. The power disappeared at the other end of the mountain. "It seems like there's something blocking it outside," Wu Lingyu said. "The bees should have been killed by this power." Seeing how excited Xiao Jin is, "I think this power is coming from the mine below. It's really an ancient aura. Let's go down and take a look." Wu Lingyu continued to lead her forward. Along the way, there were a few more similar situations. Every time, it was Wu Lingyu and Mi Air who led everyone out of danger. Half a day later, they finally reached the cave that Wu Lingyu mentioned. The cave went all the way down. After Sima Yue felt that they had come down, there were a few movements above their heads. Luckily, the power only spread horizontally and did not go up or down. The cave was very dark. Sima Yue released a flame to light up the front. They did not know how far and deep they went. Just as Sima Yue was wondering if they had gone the wrong way, the slope became slower and they finally started to walk horizontally. Mi Air, can you feel that there's power here? Sima Yue asked. No. Mi Air shook his head. Mi Air shook his head. But I can feel that there is a very powerful force here. That force makes me very uncomfortable. What kind of power could make Mi Air feel uncomfortable? What's that? Little Seven's voice interrupted her thoughts. She followed Little Seven's gaze and suddenly took a deep breath. Wu Lingyu turned around and saw a 1-meter-long rock. It was shaped like a 4-legged animal bearing its fangs. Chapter 15-16. The 2 claws of the stone statue were facing upwards, and its 2 feet were very big. One foot was on the ground while the other foot was on the ground. Its heel was already raised. He looked like a guy who was about to jump but was restrained. This stone statue is a little scary. Hua said. You, is this a stone statue? I don't know. Sima Yue walked over and looked at the stone statue. That ferocious face and the murderous look in its eyes sent chills down one's spine. Hiss, hiss, the little golden snake suddenly came down from Sima Yue's body. Its body suddenly enlarged and the aura of an ancient divine beast was exposed. It looked at the stone statue greedily, and while it was stunned, it swallowed the stone statue. Goldie, watch out! Sima Yue shouted, but it was too late to stop it. Xiao Jin swallowed the stone statue and turned around to see Sima Yue's disapproving gaze. It stretched its head in front of her and rubbed against her body. Xiao Jin, why are you so disobedient? Sima Yue pulled a long face. I can't control myself. Xiao Jin said, feeling wronged. I'm not saying that you can't eat it, but it's too dangerous. Sima Yue sighed. What if Xiao Jin couldn't digest it after eating it? Or what if there were any negative effects? No. Xiao Jin rubbed against her affectionately. I can digest it. What if there's a spirit beast inside? What if he's still alive and does something to you? Before that, I have already digested it. Xiao Jin said. Tell me if you feel uncomfortable, okay? Sima Yue reminded her worriedly. But Xiao Jin used his spiritual power to wrap the thing in his stomach, but didn't immediately digest it. With a shake of its body, it returned to its small and delicate form and wrapped itself around Sima Yue's neck. Let's continue, Sima Yue said to the others. They continued to walk forward. Hua tugged at Enlei, who was still in a daze. Only then did Enlei recover from her shock. She did not expect the little guy on Sima Yue's neck to be an ancient mythical beast. An ancient divine beast. An ancient divine beast that even the hidden clan didn't have. Sima Yue's new mistress could easily take out expensive elixirs. Not only did she have many spiritual beasts, she was also very powerful. Her instincts told her that Sima Yue's background was not limited to this. Sima Yue was famous in the middle region, but not everyone in the inner region knew her. Of course, those mysterious black-clothed organizations definitely knew about her, and they definitely hated her to the core. They continued to walk forward, and before long, they saw similar stone statues. Xiao Jin was eager to try again on her neck. Sima Yue grabbed it and said, if you do something so dangerous again, I'll throw you back. Xiao Jin's tail drooped down again. Anyway, if it wanted it, you would still give it to it, so it wouldn't go up and snatch it. Seeing that Xiao Jin was obedient, Sima Yue walked over with Wu Lingyu. She reached out and touched the stone statue. It was very cold, and a murderous aura surged from her fingertips into her body. Lingyu, is this a stone statue or a sealed ancient mythical beast? Sima Yue asked. I don't think anyone would come here to carve a stone statue. Wu Lingyu said. So you're saying that the one just now and this one are both ancient mythical beasts? Sima Yue's eyes lit up. I don't know if it'll be dead or alive. It's more likely that it'll be alive. Wu Lingyu said, look at the stone skin on the ground. Sima Yue looked at the stone skin on the ground around the stone statue. It was a thick layer. If it was wrapped up, the stone statue's shape wouldn't be seen, and it would just be a normal piece of ore. If it's dead, the stone skin shouldn't fall off. Her eyes lit up. So much stone skin has already fallen off. That means that this guy will be out soon. I've heard before that once an ancient mythical beast is sealed, it will come out on its own after a certain period of time if it hasn't been opened by someone. It seems like it's true. Wu Lingyu said. Xiao Jin was an ancient mythical beast. It hadn't been sealed for a long time, and it was opened by Sima Yue. And the one in front of them should be coming out on its own. I wonder what it'll look like when it comes out. She muttered as she walked around the stone statue. Let's keep it first. We'll open it when there's time. She kept the stone statue into her spirit pagoda, and the people inside immediately surrounded the ore to study it. They continued to walk forward, and after walking for a while, they saw another stone statue. The first time was an opportunity, The second time was luck. What was the third time? Aren't there a little too many mythical beasts here? Sima Yue pursed her lips. There are indeed a little. But you can never have too many good things. Wu Lingyu looked at her and laughed. That's true. Sima Yue didn't study it this time and directly kept the stone statue. Let's continue forward. Hiss hiss, Xiao Jin came down from her neck and flew to a rock, its little round eyes staring at her. You want to take this too? Sima Yue asked. Yes, there's something good inside. Xiao Jin transmitted to her. Sima Yue walked over and saw that it was an ordinary ore. She reached out and touched the veins on it, asking, What's inside? Is it also a mythical beast? I don't know, there's a very strong aura inside. Xiao Jin said. Sima Yue didn't think about why they couldn't feel the aura inside, but Xiao Jin could. She believed Xiao Jin's words, and moved the stone into her spirit pagoda. There's also that one, there's something inside too. Xiao Jin said. Sima Yue moved that piece in as well. You guys back off. Xiao Jin said. What do you want to do? Sima Yue asked worriedly. There's something good here, I want to take it with me. You guys back off quickly. Sima Yue conveyed Xiao Jin's message to the others, and they retreated to the side of the tunnel. Xiao Jin slowly grew bigger, and its tail grew longer and longer. It swung its tail forcefully, and its tail hit the wall, causing spiderweb-like cracks to appear on the wall. It swung its tail again, and the layer of stone fell off, revealing strange-shaped stones inside. Those stones only protruded out, and their shapes couldn't be seen, so they didn't know what was inside. These are all ores? Little Seven asked Xiao Jin. Yes, but I don't know what's inside. Xiao Jin's voice was very happy. No matter what it was attracted to it. Sima Yue looked at the stones embedded in the wall, some were 1 to 2 meters tall, and some were only the size of a palm. Little Seven, I'll leave these to you. You're so strong, you'll definitely be able to dig them out. Sima Yue patted Little Seven's shoulder. All right, watch me. Little Seven walked over and hit the stone around it. After the stone wall loosened, she grabbed the stone and pulled it down. Chapter 15-17. And Lei watched as Little Seven punched one by one. In a short while, all the things on the wall fell down. Sima Yue hugged one of the ores that were the size of a watermelon. She touched the surface of the ores and placed it under the flame to examine it for a while before saying, there should be a herb inside. Herbs from the primordial era? Little Seven was very interested in herbs and ran over, saying, You, quick, cut it open and take a look. She licked her lips and stared at the ore in Sima Yue's hand. Sima Yue saw how anxious she was and said, Don't worry. What if it's not? If you say so, then it definitely is. Little Seven said with certainty. Her words were filled with trust. Sima Yue smiled and squatted down. She took out her tools and started to open the stone. Ever since Enlei followed Sima Yue, she felt that her heart was constantly being attacked. Pills, medical skills, me-air, little gold, Little Seven, and now she even knew that she was a seeker spirit master. Dual profession spirit masters were not rare in the Eastern Lai clan. However, she did not have a good environment like those people in the clan, nor did she have so many resources. Sima Yue opened the ore very quickly. After a short while, the ore had shrunk to the size of a radish. Enlei wanted to take a closer look and subconsciously moved closer. Sima Yue carefully peeled off the last layer of stone. Light leaked out from the cracks of the stone, and a fragrant smell wafted out, making one feel refreshed. It was indeed a spirit medicine. Sima Yue looked at the unknown herbs in her hands. The soil on the roots was still damp. Do you recognize this? She handed the herbs to Wu Lingyu. Wu Lingyu took it and shook his head. I don't know him. This should be an extinct medicinal herb. Little Seven stared at the herbs, but she didn't eat them like Little Gold. In this regard, Xiao Jin was like a child who had just learned how to eat. He had no control over what he ate. On the other hand, Little Seven was like a teenager. She wanted to eat, but she wasn't so reckless. Sima Yue took over the herbs. They looked like two human legs, one on each side. She broke off one and passed it to Little Seven. Then she planted the remaining half with the roots in her spirit pagoda. Little Seven swallowed the elixir in a few bites. After that, she even smacked her lips twice, as if she hadn't had enough. And Lei didn't expect Sima Yue to feed the spiritual medicine to Little Seven without any hesitation. Spiritual medicine from the primordial age would definitely be a priceless treasure if it was sold outside. Xiao Jin ate a stone statue, but she didn't scold it. Now, she even gave Xiao Qi elixirs. She was really good to her contracted beast. She was really different from those who only treated their contracted beasts as tools. Perhaps she was different from Eastern Lai Li. Perhaps she was worth following. After confirming that Little Spirit had planted half of the spirit medicine, she said to everyone, "Let's continue. Xiao Jin, you have to find more useful ores." Xiao Jin whooshed to the front and wagged his tail at Sima Yue. Then he quickly swam to the front. Sima Yue brought the others and chased after him. After a while, they saw Little Seven waiting for them on a big rock. "This too?" Sima Yue asked. "Hiss hiss." Xiao Jin nodded and climbed down from the rock. Sima Yue went up and kept the huge rock. It was so big. She didn't know what was inside. There are many of these rocks here. And Lei saw that there were many rocks in other places and said, "They all look like ores. I don't know if there's anything inside. Let's bring them back first." Sima Yue said as she moved all the rocks inside. "Miss, this place is so strange." And Lei said, "How is it strange? This cave seems like it was dug out by humans. But if it was really dug out by humans, why didn't they take these things away?" And Lei asked, "The things that were thrown on the ground here were all treasures. Who was the one who made this, and who was the one who threw it here?" Sima Yue didn't think about this question before. Now that she thought about it, it was indeed strange. No matter who did it, no matter what the reason was, it was all in the past. She said, "I heard some rumors in the past." Wu Lingyu said, "I heard that there were people who found the ancient mining area. But for some reason, they all disappeared. This matter was left unsettled. However, there was a group of ancient spirit beasts that appeared at that time. Hence, many people guessed that those people who came in were killed by those ancient spirit beasts." Sima Yue knew that he was talking about hundreds of thousands of years ago. If it was at that time, even the bones would have disappeared. Could it be that it's here? Sima Yue said, "If that's the case, we're basking in the glory of the ancient people." And Lei was speechless. Sima Yue's luck was too good. She even found a place like this? There were so many people here. Someone must have found the entrance to the mining area. With her understanding of Eastern Lai Li, she must have sensed it before. She just didn't like Sima Yue, so she didn't say it out loud. Now that they had left, Eastern Lai Li must have brought the people from Eastern Lai clan into the mining area. If the Eastern Lai clan could enter, the other hidden clans must have entered as well. However, they didn't see any traces of people entering here. This meant that they were unique. She encountered so many good things not long after entering. There was even a tunnel that was dug by the ancestors. She couldn't be described as lucky anymore, right? They continued to walk forward. She kept all the stones that she saw along the way. She didn't even check if it was an ore. Even if it was an ordinary stone, she would still keep it. Anyway, the spirit pagoda was big. She wasn't afraid that it couldn't fit. Hiss hiss. Xiao Jin suddenly stopped walking. It even flew to Sima Yue's neck and wrapped around her tightly. She almost couldn't breathe. "What's wrong?" Sima Yue caressed Xiao Jin's head and comforted it. "I'm scared." Xiao Jin wrapped its head even tighter around her neck. Sima Yue felt Xiao Jin's trembling. She patted its head and said, "Don't be scared. We're here." She didn't know what Xiao Jin felt in front of them, but no matter what happened, she and her beasts would be by its side. When Xiao Jin heard her words, its body relaxed a little. However, it still couldn't stop trembling. And Lei saw Sima Yue pacifying her spiritual beast from behind. She recalled the scene where Eastern Lai Li whipped her spiritual beast because it didn't do a good job. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that following Sima Yue was a good choice. However, she didn't know if she would treat her like how she treated her contracted beast when she met the assassins from Eastern Lai clan. She probably wouldn't. After all, she had just followed her. Why would she offend such a huge clan for her? Let's go over and see what scared our Xiao Jin to this extent. Sima Yue's clear voice broke her wild thoughts. She sorted out her emotions and walked forward with her. Chapter 15:18. After walking through the passageway, they arrived at a vast cave. However, this place was so clean that there wasn't even a single stone. What was there that Xiao Jin was afraid of? However, Xiao Jin's body became even more nervous. Sima Yue pulled it down from her neck and placed it in her arms. If this continued, she would not be able to breathe. Little Jin, what made you so scared? She stroked its back to calm it down. Should she send Xiao Jin into the spirit pagoda? But in that case, she would miss out on a lot of things. It's right in front. Xiao Jin curled up in Yue's arms. In the shadow, Sima Yue enlarged the flame and the entire cave became brighter. Only then did she notice that there was a dent in the front. She walked over with Xiao Jin in her arms and saw a stone statue inside. The stone statue was about 2 meters tall and had a pointy head. He had no idea what it was. At this time, a sound came from the spirit pagoda. Sima Yue willed Qi Yan to appear in front of everyone. Qi Yan, do you know what this is? Crimson Flame rarely took the initiative to come out. Once he came out, there was definitely something going on. Ancestor. After Qi Yan finished speaking, he turned into a beast and crawled in front of the stone statue. Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu were shocked. If Qi Yan's ancestor was trapped inside the stone statue, then wouldn't it be another vermilion bird? Could there be 2 divine birds in the world at the same time? And Lei, who was behind him, widened her eyes in shock. Previously, she was still thinking that with the previous surprise, she could accept Sima Yue's surprises. If anything else happened, she would be able to accept it. But now, seeing the divine vermilion bird with her own eyes, her heartbeat and her breathing seemed to no longer belong to her. At this time, the people in the cave did not dare to make a sound, quietly watching Qi Yan worship the stone statue. Kacha, the faint sound was exceptionally clear in this quiet cave, causing everyone to look at the stone statue. Kacha, Kacha, with Qi Yan's worship, the stone skin on the stone statue began to peel off. It was more effective than the knives of stone-cutting masters. Could it be that a vermilion bird was about to come out? Everyone was shocked by this thought. Since ancient times, they had never heard of 2 vermilion birds living together, right? Kacha, the stone skin fell off layer by layer, and red flame crawled on the ground. From beginning to end, he didn't raise his head. Finally, you're here. The weak sigh carried an ancient and desolate taste. Sima Yue and the rest could not help but lower their heads. Greetings, ancestor. Qi Yan's head bowed even lower. Fortunately, you're here. Although it was a mess, at least the bloodline had been passed down. In the future, this world will depend on you to protect it. You must not forget your responsibility. The old vermilion bird earnestly instructed. It must have been a competent divine bird in the past. Your descendant will not let you down. Today, I will pass on the inheritance to you. It will help you heal and restore your strength. A gentle force enveloped Qi Yan. Contracted? The voice was full of doubt, as if it didn't know how Crimson Flame, a divine bird, could be contracted by someone. Qi Yan felt his divine sense being scanned, and then a long sigh sounded in his ears. Forget it, I didn't think that there would be such twists and turns. The old vermilion bird's voice was full of regret, but it did not force him to break the contract. Even if you've contracted with someone, don't forget your responsibility. Yes. Since she's your contracted master, then give her a piece of fate as well. Sima Yue felt her body tremble, and a force entered her body. She could faintly feel that she was about to advance. No, I can't advance here. Sima Yue asked Little Spirit to help her suppress the force, and her body recovered after a while. Why didn't you advance? The questioning voice was filled with anger at being contradicted. I can't advance now. Sima Yue raised her head, and only then did she see the old vermilion bird. No, she did not see the old vermilion bird's appearance clearly, because its body emitted a faint light. It was not dazzling, but she could not see its appearance clearly. Why not? Every time I advance, it will be accompanied by a lightning tribulation. If I advance now, it will attract a lot of trouble. Sima Yue said. The old vermilion bird was silent, and did not say anything else. However, Sima Yue felt that the way it looked at her was different. To be able to resist the temptation and understand the situation is not bad. The old vermilion bird said, with such a temperament, you will be able to shoulder the responsibility with it in the future. In the future, I will leave it to you. Ancestor? Qi Yen felt endless sorrow, and his voice was choked with emotions. I will finish what I have not finished. The old vermilion bird's voice gradually became softer, and the light that enveloped it poured into Qi Yan's body, and even its power was given to Qi Yen. Everyone finally saw the old vermilion bird's appearance clearly. At this moment, it was not alive as everyone thought. In front of everyone, it was just a lifeless corpse. A vermilion bird corpse that had been dead for hundreds of millions of years. Because it was sealed by spirit stones, it did not seem to have rotted. The voice that spoke just now was probably its remnant consciousness. And looking at Qi Yan's appearance, it seemed like he already knew about it. Qi Yan. Seeing that he was still lying on the ground, Sima Yue suddenly felt sorry for him. Other spirit beasts had clansmen, but he did not. When one was born, the other would die. He would always be alone. Even if there were hundreds of birds worshipping him, who would be able to understand that kind of loneliness? The old vermilion bird also experienced this kind of loneliness, right? So when he found out that Qi Yan had her by his side, he was not particularly angry. From Qi Yan's memories, he knew that Qi Yan was not as lonely as he was. He had her and all the other spirit beasts by his side, and he would not repeat his own mistakes. Little Seven and the others could feel the sadness in his heart, and could not help but cry. Qi Yan stood up and turned into his human form, saying, I want to go into closed-door cultivation. Ancestor, gave me some inheritance that I did not have before. All right. Sima Yue went up to give him a hug, saying, no matter what, you have us. You are not alone. Wu Lingyu glared at the two of them. That cold gaze was about to freeze the entire cave. Don't be angry, don't be angry. But, it's still an eyesore. I know. Qi Yan was not afraid of Wu Lingyu's gaze, but he still let her go. Although he had never said it, he was actually very glad that she was with him, slowly walking out of the valley. When he was at his weakest, most helpless, most in need of help, she appeared. Although he had taken the initiative to form a contract, but without her, he might have really died now, in that dilapidated little cave in the Yi-Lin continent, forever silent. It's so good to have you. Chapter 1519. Recommended reading. What about your ancestor's corpse? Sima Yue pointed at the old vermilion bird in the cave. First message of love. If it were the bones of other spirit beasts, she might be tempted. After all, these were all good materials for refining tools. But since it was Crimson Flame's ancestor, then forget it. I'll bring it back. It can help me comprehend it. It might have other uses in the future. Red Flame thought about it and didn't make a decision directly. However, he didn't mean that he couldn't profane it. Perhaps he could use it in the future. All right. Sima Yue nodded. His ancestor had the right to make the decision. Although I'm in seclusion, it's not a death seclusion. If there's any danger, just call me. Red Flame looked at Little Seven and Hua Hua worriedly. They were still not strong enough. Although Wu Lingyu was there, he was still worried. Don't worry. If anything happens, I'll ask you to come with me. Sima Yue said. That's good. Sima Yue kept Qi Yan and the old vermilion bird's corpses and sighed in her heart. They really didn't expect to meet the old vermilion bird here. At this time, they couldn't think of who killed it and how it appeared here. They could only sigh and say that the world was unpredictable. Perhaps Qi Yen, who had received the inheritance, would know. After Qi Yen and the old vermilion bird disappeared, the aura in the cave returned to normal. Phew, you scared me to death. Xiao Jin came out from Sima Yoyue's arms and shook his head. His body also relaxed. It was really frightened just now. If this happened a few more times, it would probably be paralyzed. In fact, with the contract with Red Flame, Xiao Jin shouldn't be afraid of enemies like birds. However, the old vermilion bird's aura was even stronger than Crimson Flame's, and it was also from the immemorial era. It simply could not resist the bone-deep suppression. It's all right now. Sima Yue patted Xiao Jin. Now it wasn't just him. Perhaps everyone was frightened by such a thing. This was an old vermilion bird from the primordial era. Even just looking at its corpse was enough to shock him. They wanted to continue walking forward, but their legs were weak and they couldn't move at all. Let's rest here, Wu Lingyu suggested when she saw Yoyue's pale face. Sima Yu looked at Enlei. She was shocked just now, but fortunately, Enlei was the one who was really shocked. She nodded. I haven't rested since I came in here. Just rest here. Enlei knew that Sima Yue was doing this for her own good. She smiled gratefully and then sat down on the ground. She crossed her legs and began to heal her injuries. It was no wonder that she felt so uncomfortable. Although she was much stronger than Sima Yue had formed a contract with Crimson Flame. Sima Yue was immune to Crimson Flame's aura. As for Little Seven and the others, they were also benefiting from the contract, so the pressure didn't do much harm to them. She was the only one who had endured the old vermilion bird's pressure from the moment it appeared until its corpse disappeared. At this moment, her 5 viscera and 6 bowels felt like they were about to be flipped upside down. Eat this pill. Sima Yoyue's voice sounded from above her head. A jade green pill was placed in front of her. Young miss, you must have been injured by the pressure just now. This pill can help you alleviate the situation in your body. Sima Yue looked at her pale face and said, if you collapse here, the road ahead will be troublesome. Although Enlei didn't say anything, Sima Yue could tell her situation at a glance. Forcing herself to recuperate naturally wouldn't be as effective as the pill. Enlei didn't reject it. She took the pill, thanked her and ate it. She didn't ask Sima Yue what kind of pill it was, nor did she suspect that there was anything wrong with it. She believed that Sima Yue wouldn't harm her. She didn't have anything to harm her. The pill took effect very quickly. Her burning viscera felt a cooling sensation and instantly felt much better. They rested for a while before continuing forward. Along the way, they picked up a lot of ores. Sometimes, Little Gold would be very excited. With a sweep of its tail, it would sweep a pile of ores off the wall and Little Seven would pick them up. Sometimes, when Little Gold was especially excited, she would ask Little Spirit to put them away. There must be something good in here. Enlei followed her. At first, she was surprised, but later on, she became numb. Along the way, Sima Yue picked up a lot of ores. Even if the probability of them being green was not high, they would still be able to get some good stuff. Thinking of this, she thought of Sima Yoyue's identity as a seeker spirit master. The younger generation would surpass them in time. A sudden roar shocked Sima Yue and the rest. Following which, a figure quickly ran over from the tunnel in front. He brushed past Sima Yue and the rest and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Sima Yue stuck close to the wall. Her palms were sweating from the shock. She looked at Wu Lingyu at the side and thanked him. At the moment when the spirit beast rushed over, Wu Lingyu used a barrier to protect all of them. That was why the spirit beast did not sense their aura and did not attack them. However, they were still shocked by the spirit beast that suddenly rushed over. What a thick ancient aura! Enlei muttered, that is an ancient spirit beast, right? It should be. Sima Yue said, I didn't expect that we would actually see an ancient spirit beast. In that case, the spirit beasts here have indeed started to come into being. For living things like this, the seal on the spirit stone has a fixed number of years. Wu Lingyu said, when the time is up, they will naturally come out. Why would it happen at this time? Sima Yue could not understand. Previously, no one had discovered it. Now that someone had entered, it was time for the spirit beasts to come out. The spirit beasts of the ancient era were much more powerful than the spirit beasts of today. This world is degenerating. Sima Yue rarely saw Wu Lingyu sigh. She always thought that he was indifferent to everything. Be careful on the road ahead. Since there are already spirit beasts that have awakened, there might be more coming out. Sima Yue reminded Little Seven and the rest. Yes, we know. Little Gold and the rest nodded. As spirit beasts, they were more afraid of the ancient spirit beasts than humans like Sima Yue. After walking for half a day, they could already feel the ancient aura rushing towards them. Could it be that many ancient spirit beasts have already come out? Sima Yue was shocked. Wu Lingyu held her hand and said, "Whether it is or not, we will know when we go over and take a look." They walked forward carefully. After passing through the narrow tunnel, the front suddenly widened. When Sima Yu and the others saw the scene in the cave, Stop Show 7, those who read Crazy Wife, Fifth Miss Divine Doctor, also liked it. Chapter 1520. So many. And Lei swallowed her saliva. She was quite frightened. K asterisk Lu asterisk Yen asterisk Ching asterisk Song asterisk Sent. Sima Yue was no longer calm. She frowned as she looked at the stone statues in the cave. There were at least several thousand stone statues here. In other words, there were several thousand ancient spiritual beasts here. If all of them came out, then their combat power. Moreover, this was only where the flames had reached. She felt that it was very spacious below. There should be a lot of places that had not been illuminated yet. Innumerable. If all of them came out, and Lei felt a chill run down her spine when she thought of this. If there were only one or two of them, they would be easy to tame. If it was a few or a dozen of them, they would gain new strength after taming them. But there were so many of them, and their outer skin had already fallen off, and they were about to come out by themselves. No matter which power it would be a headache to suddenly obtain so much. Sima Yue thought of the people in the Sima family. They already had a complete fusion of spiritual techniques. If they were paired with a spirit beast from the immemorial era, the strength of the Sima family would increase by several levels. Although it seemed a little tricky now. However, they hadn't come out yet. As long as they didn't come out and were placed in the spirit pagoda, wouldn't it be up to her when she wanted them to come out? As long as they did not appear at the same time, she had the confidence to deal with them. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She grabbed Wu Lingyu's hand and asked, "Lingyu, can our beast taming method tame ancient spiritual beasts?" Wu Lingyu knew what she was thinking when he saw the golden light in her eyes. He smiled and said, "It should be possible. After all, it was passed down from the past." "That's good." Sima Yue looked at these stone statues greedily. She touched Xiao Jin's head and asked, "Are there any that haven't come out yet?" Xiao Jin knew what Sima Yue was thinking, and he was also interested in these ancient spiritual beasts. "However, they are blocking me at the back, so I can't use my strength." "Then keep them first," Sima Yue said. She had asked Little Spirit about it earlier, and Little Spirit had clearly stated that as long as it was there, even if those guys woke up, there was no need to worry. However, these were all connected to the ground and were not easy to move. He had to pull them out one by one. "You, let them all come out and help." Little Seven saw so many stone statues. How long would she have to go alone? "All right." Sima Yue thought of it too. "All of you come out." The beasts all came out. Other than Little Roar, that lazy fellow who was still in his beast form, the others were all in their human forms. Learn from Little Seven and get these fellows out. Be careful, don't damage the oars. Sima Yue instructed. Alright. The beasts were full of energy. Previously, they thought that they wouldn't have the chance to come out. They didn't expect that they would be able to come out and play. Seeing how excited they were, Sima Yue smiled and said, "Go ahead." The beasts started from the stone statues in front of them. All of them were kept in the spirit pagoda by Sima Yue. And Lei followed beside Sima Yue and asked, "Are they all your contracted beasts?" "That's right." Sima Yue was in a good mood. In her eyes, these stone statues were the capital of the Sima family in the future. And Lei looked at the people moving among the stone statues. Her heart was already numb from shock. What kind of evildoer did she choose to be her master? Mother was right, she couldn't underestimate anyone. "I'll go and help too." She was completely convinced by Sima Yue. Following such a capable and kind young lady, who might be able to lead a better life in the future. Sima Yue looked at the relaxed Lei and knew that she really wanted to follow her. Her lips curled into a smile. This way, the rest of the matters would be easier. Everyone worked together and very quickly, those stone statues were kept away by Sima Yue. Although Lei was curious as to how big her interspatial ring was to store these things, she tactfully didn't ask anything. "Little Gold." "Okay." Little Gold swung its long tail. With a few smacks, the stones on the wall fell off and many more stones appeared. Little Gold couldn't be sure that these stones were all spirit beasts, but there were definitely good things inside. They had been in the cave for a few days. After they were done here, Little Gold dug out many more stones in front. Towards the end, Sima Yue looked at the stones and became numb. "Don't tell me we've moved all the ores here?" And Lei was more familiar with everyone and was more talkative. She wasn't as reserved as before. "It'll be great if that's the case." Little Seven giggled and said, "It'll be best if those people don't get anything." "That's impossible." Sima Yue was more rational. "The mining area is so big, there won't be only here. However, I think that no one has more gains than us." Thinking about the things in the spirit pagoda, she couldn't help but smile. She originally came here with the mindset of being a bystander. She didn't expect to have such a big gain. As long as Wu Lingyu saw that she was in a good mood, he didn't care about anything else. "That's right, Lingyu. If you give these to me, it'll be hard for you to explain to the Sage Pavilion, right?" After all, he had just come to the inner region and encountered such a big matter. If he didn't show them some results, how would they trust him? However, she wasn't willing to give these things to the Sage Pavilion. "It's fine." Wu Lingyu patted her head and said, "They have people with them at the Sage Pavilion. Even if they don't get anything, they can't blame me. But that person doesn't get along with you. He might blame you and say that you didn't go with them." Sima Yue said, "How about this? You take a few stone statues. There are spirit beasts inside. If they make things difficult for you, you take them out. If they don't say anything, you can keep them for me." Wu Lingyu saw her pained look and knew that she didn't want to give them to the Sage Pavilion. He smiled and pinched her face, saying, "All right." Sima Yue casually took a few for him. Wu Lingyu didn't refuse and kept the stone statues. The beasts swept the entire area, looking for ores and digging for ores. When they were almost done sweeping the area, Sima Yue didn't know how many things were piled up in the spirit pagoda. It seemed that the entire mountain was about to be emptied by them. It was a good thing that the beasts had unlimited strength and were very efficient in their work. If it was an average person, they wouldn't be able to move so quickly. "Yu, I feel that there's nothing good around here." Little Golden wagged its tail. "There should be something here, but I feel that it's not something that we can get now." Sima Yue said, "When we came in, the energy that was released from the ground was definitely around here." Sima Yue said, "However, if we go there, we'll probably lose our lives. Let's forget about it. Let's go to other places and have a look." Chapter 1521. When she thought of the power on the ground, her heart began to race. First message of lover intuition told her that if she could obtain that power, her strength would undergo a tremendous change. However, now was not the time for her to touch it. She wondered if Wu Lingyu could go. "It doesn't suit me," Wu Lingyu said, as if he knew what she was thinking. "You haven't seen it yet, how do you know it's not suitable for you?" Sima Yue asked. "Because I know." Wu Lingyu said, "I already felt it before. That power clashed with the spiritual energy in my body. Even if we found it, it wouldn't be a blessing, but a disaster. He was not a person who coveted power blindly. All right then. Then we won't bother about it. Let's go somewhere else. Sima Yue held his hand. I wonder how the others are doing. They had already stayed underground for more than 4 months. In another month, it would be the date that Sima Yue and Xian Qiuhe agreed to meet. He didn't know why he would set a date for the second half of the year. Could it be that they didn't plan to stay here for a long time and unearth more treasures? It wasn't easy to enter this place, so he had to stay here for a while and get more things out. Otherwise, it might not be easy to come back in the future. She told Wu Lingyu her thoughts. According to the ancient books, you can't stay in the ancient mine for more than half a year. Wu Lingyu said. Why? It's said that if you stay here for too long, your mind will be controlled and you will lose your conscience, Wu Lingyu explained. As for the reason, it's not recorded in the books. The Xian Qiu clan had always done research on the ancient mines, so they definitely knew about this. If they didn't want to lose themselves, they wouldn't stay in the mines for too long. It seems like there will be more lunatics in this world. Sima Yue sighed. In half a year's time, if it wasn't for her luck, many people wouldn't have gained much. Even if they knew that half a year was too short, they would still be unable to resist the temptation and continue to stay here. Not everyone could resist the temptation. Moreover, there were many people who didn't know this at all and would unconsciously stay here. Oh, since I've met someone I know, it's better to tell them. They kept digging forward. As they dug out the exit, they looked for opportunities to pick up scraps. Later on, he did dig out some ores, but Little Gold didn't have any reaction. He guessed that the things inside were ordinary. It took them a few days to reach the surface from underground. At this time, they were already very far away from the entrance. Phew, it's more comfortable to be on the ground. Sima Yue took a deep breath. The air on the ground was so fresh. Everyone is tired. Let's rest here. It wouldn't be easy to get out of the ground. If it wasn't for Yu Yu's insistence on digging a hole, wouldn't it have been easy for you to use your spiritual energy? Little Roar ridiculed a certain someone who wanted to take advantage of the situation. Don't say it even if you see through it, understand? Sima Yu glared at it. We want to eat good food. Little Roar hid in Little Dream's embrace, not afraid of her piercing gaze. What do you want to eat? Meat. Eating meat was very simple. Sima Yue prepared a pile of meat for everyone. Barbecued meat, braised meat, fried meat, braised meat, steamed meat, stewed meat, etc. This time, the beasts had indeed contributed a lot. With so many rewards, she didn't mind preparing good food for everyone. Sima Yue grabbed Little Roar, who was about to snatch the meat, and placed him in front of a bowl of soup. She smiled and said, "This is yours." Little Roar looked at the little fellow in the bowl and said with disgust, "What is this? So small. There's no meat at all." This is pigeon soup. It's very nutritious and is very useful for your small body. Sima Yue grabbed his neck, not letting him escape. No. They all eat big meat. I'm only eating this small. I want to eat with them. Little Roar protested. You're only suitable to eat this. Sima Yue ignored his protest. Didn't you say that you're too small and can't do manual labor? Since you're so small, eating this is enough. Little Roar's big round eyes stared at Sima Yue as if he was wronged. She did it on purpose. She took advantage of the fact that he didn't work and didn't give him good food. Whoa, she was too hateful. Be good, this is also very delicious. Sima Yue patted his head. Little Roar was stared at by her and could only finish the one in front of him before eating the meat. Such a small one, he ate it in one bite. But it's really quite delicious. Little Roar swallowed it and felt that the taste was not bad. Hence, he drank the entire bowl of soup without any integrity. Then he ignored Sima Yue's mocking gaze and ran to snatch the meat from Little Seven and the others. It was Enlei's first time eating such delicious meat. Adding on the fact that she was familiar with everyone, she also joined the team to snatch the meat. Sima Yue carried a bowl and came to Wu Lingyu's side, saying, I wonder if Siyu will chase after me and beat me up when she sees me. Wu Lingyu smiled, saying, That's possible. Siyu loved to join in the fun, but she was abandoned and could not enter the desert. If she saw her in the future with her personality, she would probably chase after her and beat her up. Isn't it all because of you? Sima Yue rolled her eyes at him. As the one who started it, he actually smiled so gloatingly. I wonder how much the others have gained. She took a bite of the barbecued meat. I'll go ask the bees about the news. Wu Lingyu ate quietly while Sima Yue looked distracted and asked about the situation outside. If he spoke to her at this time, she might not be able to hear. Suddenly, she stood up and stopped eating the barbecued meat in her hands, saying, "There's news about Master Feng." Feng Zhixing? Yes. There's a group of people arguing and many people are watching. Master is also there. Sima Yue said, I want to go take a look. If there's an argument at this time, it probably has something to do with the ore. It should be a treasure to be able to attract so many people to watch. Wu Lingyu said, who knows, there might be a fight later on. It's good to go take a look. Sima Yue nodded and said to the beasties who were eating heartily, we'll eat later. Let's hurry on our way. The beasties quickly divided up the food and carried the meat on their way. Sima Yue was worried about Shimin Feng's safety. Luckily, the scarlet bees told her that he was fine for now, so she was slightly relieved. According to the direction the scarlet bees told them, Chongming led everyone and flew for half a day before they heard the sound of spirit techniques clashing in the air. The two of them were fighting in the air while a group of people were watching below. Sima Yue recognized Feng Zhixing at a glance. Although they did not spend much time together, he left a deep impression in her heart. Feng Zhixing was still thinking about something when he suddenly sensed something and turned his head to see Sima Yue flying over. Stop Show 7. Chapter 1522. Master. Sima Yue flew down from the sky without waiting for Chongming to land. When Feng Zhixing saw Sima Yue falling, he almost reached out to catch her. Master, you really came. Sima Yue looked at Feng Zhixing excitedly. Feng Zhixing still couldn't hold back. He reached out and touched her head, like a father doting on his daughter. For so many years, he had worked so hard just to be able to shelter her from the wind and rain when they met again. But from the information he received, the little guy's growth was much faster than his. Suddenly, a sharp gaze landed on his hand. Wu Lingyu landed beside Sima Yue. Master, I've finally met you. Previously, when I heard that I couldn't find your sect, I was depressed for quite a while. Sima Yue looked at Feng Zhixing and thought of the scene when they first met. Even if you can't find me, I'll look for you when this is over, Feng Zhixing said with a smile. He had long known that Sima Yue had come to the inner region. Initially, he had planned to meet her as soon as he came out of seclusion. However, as soon as he came out of seclusion, he encountered the incident at the ancient mining area. Young master, she is? Someone interrupted the reunion between the master and disciple. She is my disciple, Sima Yue. In the future, you will treat her with the courtesy of a young lady. Feng Zhixing spoke to that person, returning to his previous cold and detached appearance. Sima Yue blinked in disbelief when she saw Feng Zhixing's reaction. No matter if it was the him who had taught her in the Yilin continent or the him who had tried his best to protect her outside, he had always given her a warm feeling. Even if he was looking at her lovingly just now, it was the same. Since when did Master emit such a cold aura? What made him change? Young Master? The young master of the Integral Moon Palace? She had never heard him mention it before. If he went back now, those people would definitely not pay much attention to him. Then how much did he sacrifice to become the young master? She looked at Feng Zhixing with some heartache. These are all my people. In the future, if you need anything, just order them around. Feng Zhixing said. Is this the young lady that young master mentioned to us before? A man in a white shirt came over and bowed to Sima Yue. Young master has been telling us to increase our strength so that we can protect young mistress in the future. He didn't expect to meet Miss so soon. I am Feng Xiujie. Sima Yue felt that Feng Xiujie was very similar to Feng Kai. It was very comfortable to look at him. However, she didn't know how to address him. Calling him by his name wasn't a good idea. After all, he was her master's follower. After thinking for a while, she gave him a slight bow. Yue, I still have some things to do right now. I'll introduce them to you later, Feng Zhixing said. There were still many people in front of them who were eyeing them covetously. Although they were not facing the integral moon palace, the current situation was not suitable for a long time to reminisce about the past. Sima Yue turned her gaze to the two people on the battlefield. One of them had white hair and was dressed in black. He was older and had slightly higher strength. The other person was dressed in a blue robe. Although he was suppressed, he didn't seem to be in a particularly difficult situation. Moreover, that face even looked a little familiar. It seems that I don't know anyone in the inner region, right? It's probably because this person's face is too common. Well, such a good-looking face was actually called a common face. If I knew, I would vomit a mouthful of blood. Master, who are these two people? The man in black is an elder of the Yang family in the 16th region, and the man in blue is the young master of the Su family in the 19th region. Although Feng Zhixing wasn't in the inner region for a while, he still knew these people. Sima Yue's head heated up, and she blurted out, "He can't be Su Yu, right?" "It's him. Do you know him?" Feng Zhixing asked. I don't know him." Sima Yue smiled. Now she knew why he looked a little familiar. This person was 50% similar to Su Lunyan. Thinking of what Su Lunyan said about matchmaking the two of them, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she looked at Su Yu. Su Lunyan said that he would also come to the ancient mining area. She didn't expect to really meet him here. The Su family's strength is obviously not comparable to the Yang family. Su Yu has been forced a little too much. He's about to lose. Feng Zhixing commented. Sima Yue also saw that Su Yu had been injured by the man in black. She thought of what Su Lunyan said about helping to take care of her nephew if they met. Now that she saw him injured, she couldn't just ignore it. Well, although she didn't have the strength to care. Moreover, the other party was the Yang family, a family that she didn't like very much. A family that could cultivate undead. "Master, can your people beat that man in black?" she asked Feng Zhixing softly. "You want to save Su Yu?" Sima Yue nodded. "Didn't you not know him? He's Auntie's nephew. Before coming here, Auntie mentioned him and said that if we meet, we should help to take care of him." Sima Yue said, "But with my strength, how would I dare to go up?" "You have a good relationship? Auntie is a good person." Sima Yue smiled embarrassedly. Feng Zhixing looked at her. She wanted to save him, but she wasn't strong enough. She could only beg others. No, he believed that she had the ability to save him. It was just that she couldn't expose herself now. He didn't want her to expose herself too early. Sima Yue was a little worried. That man in black looked very powerful. Could Master's people do it? "Since it's someone you want to save, then?" Before Feng Zhixing finished speaking, he disappeared from where he was and reappeared beside Su Yu. He caught the seriously injured Su Yu and took the attack of the man in black. Sima Yu looked at Feng Zhixing, her heart filled with astonishment. When did Master's strength become so powerful? Could it be that he used some bad method to increase his strength in the years that she wasn't around? In a while, she had to take a good look at Master and not leave any hidden dangers. Feng Xiujie looked at Sima Yue's frown and guessed what she was thinking. He was immediately amused. Was young Master the kind of person who needed to use improper methods to increase his strength? "Miss, you don't have to worry. Young Master is very strong." Feng Xiujie reminded her a little. But at that time, Master's strength wasn't so strong. It was a lot weaker. Sima Yue said. Before she recovered her memories, she felt that Feng Zhixing was very powerful. But later on, when she recovered her strength, she naturally knew what level Feng Zhixing's strength was at that time. Compared to now, it was not just 1 or 2 levels lower. Young Master left sadly before and sealed the spiritual power in his body. Feng Xiujie said, "How weak can a person who can stand shoulder to shoulder with your father be?" In fact, it wasn't Sima Yue's fault that she didn't know. After finding Sima Lu Xian, he no longer had any spiritual power. Everyone said how powerful they were at that time, but no one told her exactly how powerful they were. Didn't they say that Su Yu was also a person who stood shoulder to shoulder with father? But it's still a lot worse. She whispered, but it was heard by Feng Zhixing and Su Yu, who came back. Chapter 1523. Su Yu was a genius who was as famous as his father and the others. That was what Yin Lang had said at that time. Out of every 2 people who read romance novels, one of them had registered an account on the Kulishao Shua website. So she believed him. But he didn't expect the gap to be so big. Feng Xiujia's smile deepened when he saw Sima Yoyue's troubled expression. Young Master Su was indeed mentioned along with Young Master and the others, but they were talking about his talent. No matter what, he's still so much younger than Young Master and the others. Not everyone is as monstrous as you, he added in his heart. Sima Yoyue accepted this explanation. Anyway, it was useless to dwell on these things. However, he was still a little conflicted about his master's strength. Feng Zhixing did not bring Su Yu back to the Su family. Instead, he brought him to the Integral Moon Palace. Su Yu heard Sima Yoyue's muttering. Seeing that she was so young, he didn't want to argue with a junior. Besides, it wasn't the right time to talk about other things. Master, are you all right? Sima Yoyue still didn't believe in Feng Zhixing's strength. That little bit of strength can't hurt me. Feng Zhixing looked at the worry in his disciple's eyes and felt sweet in his heart. His disciple was indeed more considerate than these people, especially when it was her child. The resemblance between their eyebrows was growing. Feng Zhixing, what do you mean? Didn't you say that you wouldn't interfere with our matters? What are you doing now? Since the Yang family's people were injured, the Yang family naturally wouldn't give them any face. Sima Yue looked at those people. She had seen some of them when she first entered the grassland, but some of them were new to her. Moreover, the few people in charge of the Yang family were not present. Something fishy was going on. Feng Zhixing didn't feel guilty about going back on his words when facing the Yang family's accusations. He looked at them and said, I didn't want to meddle in your affairs before, but my precious disciple said that she would save the Su family's young master. Naturally, we have to take care of this matter. Su Yu was a little surprised. Was it this little girl who saved him? So, Integral Moon Palace is going to go back on their word? When has the Integral Moon Palace ever kept its word? Feng Zhixing scoffed at this accusation. Everything was so natural. Sima Yue pursed her lips. When did Master become so shameless? If she wasn't sure that the person in front of her was Feng Zhixing, she would have suspected that she had mistaken him for someone else. Perhaps this was Master's nature. How could a genius like him not have a trace of arrogance in him? The him in the Yilin continent was probably depressed. It was all because of Mother. Feng Xiujie had been observing Sima Yue and saw the heartache in her eyes. He thought that his young master's efforts all these years were not in vain. Back then, young master left the inner region because of Yukuluo and no longer managed the sex affairs. Later on, he returned because of Yukuluo's daughter. To his former subordinates, it was not that they were not surprised. However, facing the current young master, it was much better than the depressed young master from before. The young master's efforts after coming back this time made them feel distressed. Fortunately, Sima Yue really cared about him and was worthy of his efforts. Sima Yue and Feng Xiujie had different thoughts, and Su Yu's heart was not calm at this time. Feng Zhixing was obviously just watching the battle with the mentality of watching a show. He didn't expect that it would change because of his disciple. It seemed that this disciple was quite important in his heart. However, he didn't know her, so why would she help him? Or was she also after that thing? The Yang family was directly choked by Feng Zhixing, and each of their faces was so heavy that water could drip out. However, they couldn't do anything about it. The other forces watching from the side looked at Su Yu differently. The Su family, among the hidden families and the families in front of them, usually wouldn't be provoked, but once it involved interests, it was not impossible to touch them. However, the Integral Moon Palace was different. No one could say for sure the power behind it, and no one dared to provoke it casually. Didn't Feng Zhixing bring Su Yu to the Integral Moon Palace to protect him? This was no longer the extent of meddling in matters. Young Master Feng, are you sure you want to be enemies with everyone because of this? Someone tried to provoke the Integral Moon Palace to be hostile to all forces. I just saved a person, and I didn't say I wanted to snatch that thing. If you want it, do as you wish. Feng Zhixing said, and then solemnly added, this time I really mean what I say. Although he said so, no one else dared to make a move. Sima Yue blinked curiously and subconsciously looked at Wu Lingyu. Do you know anything? Wu Lingyu shook his head. He came with her, so how could he know what had happened before? Sima Yue sighed. The bees arrived too late. They only saw the battle but didn't know what had happened before. The Su family found an ancient spirit beast that had already come out of the ore, but it was discovered by the Yang family. They insisted that the ancient spirit beast was discovered by them first. Feng Xiujia's voice came and explained the cause of the matter. At the same time, he also let her know why there were so many people here to watch. If the Yang family and the Su family quarreled, no one knew the final result. Maybe they could pick up some leftovers or something. Sima Yue looked towards the Su family and saw a small spirit beast curled up on the ground. It was obviously frightened. Such a small spirit beast was a bit like a newborn. As long as they took it back, they would definitely be able to cultivate it in the future. No wonder those people were all here to snatch it. Sima Yue curled her lips. They were like this for an ancient spirit beast. If they knew about the pile of treasures in the spirit pagoda, what kind of expression would these people have? Thinking that Feng Zhixing had intervened because of her words, she was very happy in her heart and the corners of her mouth rose slightly. A sour smell came from beside her. Sima Yue turned her head and looked at Wu Lingyu's gloomy face. She smiled and grabbed his hand. How could Master's love and his feelings for her be the same? What a stingy man. Seeing her playful eyes, Wu Lingyu reached out and pinched her nose. Feng Zhixing saw the interaction between the two and thought, a grown girl can't be kept at home. However, before he found Kaluo, that fellow wouldn't marry Yue off. Hearing Feng Zhixing's sigh, Sima Yue asked curiously, Master, aren't you tempted by that spirit beast? Previously, I thought that it was quite cute and silly, so I wanted to snatch it and give it to you as a gift. Since you said that you wanted to help this fellow, and you didn't like that little fellow that much, why should I participate? Feng Zhixing said lightly. Those who were here to watch were 100% tempted by that spirit beast. However, she didn't expect that Master would participate because he wanted to give it to her as a pet. Feng Zhixing looked at Sima Yue dotingly. When he came back, he wanted to settle down in advance so that when she came to the inner region, she would have someone to rely on. Now, he had completed a small part of it. Chapter 1524. Although the Integral Moon Palace had no intention of snatching the ancient spirit beast, they were still involved in this matter. If the Su family refused to give up the ancient spirit beast, they would most likely clash with these people. Of course, if the Integral Moon Palace was strong enough, those people would have to think twice. Young Master. The people of the Su family recognized the situation and quickly ran over with the ancient spirit beast in their arms. Seeing the ancient spirit beast, many people were moved. But they didn't know if they had the courage to face the Integral Moon Palace head-on. Today, the Su family will be protected by my Integral Moon Palace. If you want to experience the strength of my Integral Moon Palace, you are welcome. Feng Zhixing glanced at those people and turned to leave with his people. Feng Zhixing, don't be too arrogant. Some people were still overwhelmed by greed and attacked Feng Zhixing and the others. Feng Xiujia's figure moved, accompanied by the sound of a sharp blade entering the body and the sound of the body falling heavily to the ground. More than a dozen people were killed by the people of the Integral Moon Palace in an instant, and none of them had an intact corpse. They had always known that the Integral Moon Palace was very mysterious, but they had never seen it before. Today, they had learned something new. With more experience, one's courage would naturally weaken. Yue, let's go. Feng Zhixing didn't care about the reactions of those people, as if he didn't see the cruelty of his subordinates, and said to Sima Yue with a smile. Okay. Sima Yue had seen dead people before. This kind of scene was scary for others, but she felt very warm. Master was doing this for her. So you felt that the name Yue was a bit familiar. Did they really know each other? The group left, and this time, no one came to stop them. Soon, they left the group far behind. Su Yu led the Su family to salute Feng Zhixing and said, "Thank you, young Master Feng, for saving us." Feng Zhixing glanced at him. "You should thank Yue. If she hadn't asked, I wouldn't have done it." Su Yu saluted Sima Yue. "Thank you, Miss Yue. I will repay you for saving my life today." "No need. I was just asked to do it. Besides, it was my master who saved you." Sima Yue waved her hand. "Entrusted by someone?" Su Yu didn't know who had entrusted her. "Before we came, we went to Cord City. Auntie He said that you would come here too. If we meet, we should take care of each other." Sima Yue's meaning was obvious. If it was not for Auntie He, she would not help. Auntie? At the mention of Aunt He from Tsuching, Su Yu immediately understood why the name Yue was so familiar. Back then, Auntie He had told him a few times that she was going to matchmake him and Sima Yue. However, he did not take it to heart. He did not expect to meet Sima Yue here. Sima Yue nodded and asked, "How long have you been here? Any gains?" "It's already been more than 5 months. Other than this ancient spirit beast, there are also some gains." Su Yu said, "Do you know about the half-year period?" "I've heard about it, so we were planning to leave. I didn't expect to meet it before we left, which led to the subsequent events." So you said, "I'm afraid many people know about this. Be careful on your way back." Sima Yue said. It was obvious that she was asking him to leave. Su Yu was not ignorant. Besides, it was not completely safe to be with them. Who knew when they would change their minds? Therefore it was better to leave. If there is a need in the future, Su Yu will definitely not hesitate. Goodbye. Su Yu bowed to Feng Zhixing and Sima Yue and left with the Su family. "I thought you would bring him along." Feng Zhixing said. "I saved him for Auntie He's sake. If we let them follow, wouldn't it bring trouble to Master? Those people might come over to snatch it at any time." Sima Yue and the Su family were not very familiar with each other. In comparison, she was definitely more concerned about Feng Zhixing's safety. They could only walk the rest of the way by themselves. Feng Zhixing was very happy that Sima Yue was able to place him in front of her. The coldness on his body dissipated a lot. "By the way, Master, how long have you been in here?" "It's only been 4 months. There's still more than a month before the half-year period." Feng Zhixing said, "What about you?" "We're about the same. In that case, we arrived here around the same time. Why didn't we meet?" Sima Yue muttered. "How was it? Did you get anything?" "A little." In front of so many people, she did not say anything specific, but Feng Zhixing saw her happy expression and knew that she definitely had more than a little. "Follow us from behind. It's getting more and more chaotic now." Feng Zhixing said. "More and more chaotic?" "Yes. Up until now, many people had gained something. Those who did not gain anything naturally turned their attention to others. After all, it's easier to snatch than to find." Feng Zhixing sighed. Sima Yue understood. For example, it was like what the Su family had encountered before. Also, some people have been here for a long time. It's been more than half a year. Sima Yue's heart trembled. After half a year, they would start to be affected by the mining area. When they went crazy, it was naturally not safe here. Thinking of this, Feng Zhixing frowned. "Why did the two of you come here? How did you take care of Yue?" He was naturally blaming Wu Lingyu. If something happened to the few of them, what would they do? Sima Yue grabbed Wu Lingyu's hand and said with a smile, "Lingyu is very powerful. Look, I'm fine." "You're just protecting him." Feng Zhixing snorted when he saw how protective she was. He had been paying attention to Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu, so he naturally knew about it. Even the Sima family approved of it. What else could he say? Only if you have the ability. He snorted. Looking at Wu Lingyu, he wondered when he should test him. Wu Lingyu did not care about Feng Zhixing's gaze. He could even deal with the old man of the Sima family, so how could he deal with his master? Master, where are we going now? Sima Yu asked. I heard that there's a mining area up ahead. We can go take a look and join in the fun. Feng Zhixing said. Is it a very big mining area? Sima Yue was interested. Joining in the fun? She liked it the most. I heard that there are many ancient spirit beasts. The Su family came from that direction. Feng Zhixing said. Sima Yue's eyes lit up even more. She urged, Master, let's hurry over. Feng Zhixing brought her in the direction of the mining area. Sima Yue realized that this direction was completely opposite to the direction she had swept before. After rushing for a few days, Sima Yue asked Feng Zhixing some things. Feng Zhixing told her the good things. The people behind them were even more certain of Sima Yue's position in his heart. Chapter 1525. When she arrived at the mine, Sima Yue met some familiar people, such as the people from the Donglai family, Yang Shi's grandfather, Yang Wei, her father, Yang Gaoming, and her mother, Wei Shuezhu. No wonder he only saw the Yang family elders before and didn't see the patriarch. It turned out that they were all here. She looked around and did not see anyone from the Xianqiu clan. She did not know if they were here. Eastern Lai Li noticed Sima Yue the moment she appeared. When she saw that Sima Yue was still alive and well, her gaze darkened. Miss, it's Sima Yue and Enlei. Shui saw them and shouted, Why aren't they dead yet? It seems that I have underestimated her previously. Eastern Lai Li said faintly, She is quite capable to be able to remove the mark I planted on her. Not long after they separated, Eastern Lai Li wanted to use the imprint to track down the whereabouts of Sima Yue and the rest. Only then did she realize that the imprint on Enlei's body was gone. It must be Wu Lingyu's doing. His strength is higher, so what does Sima Yue's strength count for? No one believed that Sima Yue was the culprit. Eastern Lai Li saw her talking and laughing with Feng Zhixing and snorted, I didn't expect them to hook up with people from the Integral Moon Palace. She had seen Feng Zhixing, the young master of the Integral Moon Palace, several times before. He was a cold-hearted person. He didn't even look at a woman of her condition. It was said that he had once left the inner region because of the ghost race's princess, but for some unknown reason he had returned. She had never heard of him being with a woman, let alone talking and laughing with her. She wondered what kind of bewitching method Sima Yue had used to bewitch him. Doesn't Wu Lingyu like her a lot? How can he tolerate her seducing other men? Shui followed Eastern Lai Li everywhere, so she naturally knew about Feng Zhixing. Seeing Sima Yue talking and laughing with him, she felt that it was an eyesore. That's what happened before. It has nothing to do with us. Eastern Lai Li wasn't in the mood to pay attention to Sima Yue now. She had to focus on the ore vein in front of her. Young Master Xianqiu. What did he say? Shui asked. When Xianqiu was mentioned, her mood worsened. After knowing about the mineral vein here, she contacted Xianqiu and asked him to come over and enter together. However, Xianqiu wanted to reject her directly, saying that each of them had their own opportunities and it was not good to snatch the opportunity from her. At that time, she wanted to curse him in her heart. What opportunity? He didn't want to come at all. Shui looked at Eastern Lai Li's expression and guessed it. She said softly, maybe young Master Xianqiu also realized something. I thought that as more and more people came here, we could take care of each other. Eastern Lai Li put away her sadness and said, since that's the case, let's go in. Just now, he had seen Northern Du Hao leading the Northern Du family's people inside. If he continued to delay outside, he was afraid that they would be the first to arrive. Sima Yue thought that Eastern Lai Li would come over to provoke her. She didn't expect her to bring people into the mine. It seemed that there was still a certain difference between her and those brainless women. At least she could distinguish what was more important. Feng Zhixing glanced over there and asked faintly, Do you know the people of the Yin clan? I know them. I'm not familiar with them. Sima Yue didn't want to say more. Anyway, Eastern Lai Li wouldn't do anything here. She doesn't seem to like you. Feng Zhixing said. Many women don't like someone as smart, cute, and beautiful as me. Sima Yue said confidently. Pfft. Feng Xiujie and the others behind laughed. Young master's disciple was really narcissistic. Feng Zhixing looked at her and then looked at Wu Lingyu, who was too handsome. He nodded, indeed. Young master, are we going in? Although Integral Moon Palace also had some gains, who would complain about having more treasures? Even Sima Yue, who had obtained so much, was also very interested in this mine. It's hard to say what the situation inside is like. Why don't we check out the situation inside first before making a decision? Feng Zhixing didn't get carried away by the mine and remained cautious. He also had a certain understanding of the ancient mine and knew that it was dangerous here. He didn't intend to take the risk. Master, why don't we let the bees check out the news? Sima Yue also agreed with Feng Zhixing's words and said. Feng Zhixing knew about the scarlet bees, but his subordinates didn't necessarily know. Seeing her call out so many scarlet bees, they were still a little doubtful. Miss, can these bees really check out the news? Of course. I often ask them to help me check out the situation. I know that master is here because the bees told me. Sima Yue said. These are the scarlet bees that you have been yearning for a long time. Feng Zhixing said. What? Everyone was stunned as they looked at the scarlet bees flying away. Thinking that she actually used the scarlet bees to check out the news, they suddenly felt that it was a waste of natural resources. Why you want the scarlet bees? Sima Yue asked. We heard that the scarlet bees have appeared recently, so we wanted to find some to produce honey. The scarlet bees' honey is indeed more effective than normal. Sima Yue took out dozens of bottles and stuffed them into their hands, saying, These are for you. When we go our separate ways later, I'll give you some more scarlet bees. Miss, how can this be? Feng Xiujie and the others hugged the jade bottles and looked at the scarlet bees' honey falling from the sky in disbelief. They knew that the secret clans had scarlet bees and that scarlet honey would occasionally flow out, but they had never seen so much scarlet honey. Sima Yue waved her hand carelessly and said, I have a lot of this stuff. I've accumulated a lot over the years. Time passed faster in the Spirit Pagoda, and the scarlet bees bred very quickly. Other than the scarlet queen bee, there were also many little queen bees that had evolved. These little queen bees would lay eggs when they had nothing to do, so the number of scarlet bees she had now was overflowing. If the Spirit Pagoda wasn't big enough, she would have to suppress the growth of the scarlet bees. With so many scarlet bees and so many different kinds of flowers in the Spirit Pagoda, the scarlet honey was piled up and she couldn't finish it. She was telling the truth, but Feng Xiujie and the others didn't think so. No matter how much she had, how much could she have? She must have given it to them. Since Yu Yue is giving it to you, just accept it. Feng Zhixing didn't say anything courteous, knowing that some of his subordinates liked it very much. As soon as he spoke, they all put away their smiles and decided in their hearts to treat this generous young lady even better. After half a day, the scarlet bees sent back a message. After Sima Yue heard it, she looked at Feng Zhixing with a troubled expression. Master, I want to go in first. Sima Yue said. What's wrong? That. Sima Yue wanted to make up an excuse, but when she saw Feng Zhixing staring at her, she said embarrassedly, I have a friend who met with some trouble. It's fine if I didn't know, but since I know, I can't just ignore it. Chapter 1526. Sima Yue looked at Feng Zhixing's emotionless eyes and felt a little scared. You plan to go in by yourself? Feng Zhixing asked. They're up against the hidden clan. I don't want Master to stand up for me and offend the hidden clan. Also, that Northern Du clan is someone who takes revenge for the smallest grievance. If they hold a grudge against Master and Integral Moon Palace, I'll feel guilty. Sima Yue said honestly. Feng Zhixing stared at the top of her head. After a long time, he sighed and said, "You and your father are really alike. I'm my father's biological daughter. Of course we're alike." Sima Yuiwei raised her head and blinked. "Master wouldn't be angry, right? Are you close to that person?" Feng Zhixing asked. "It's all right. He's the first friend I made when I came to the inner regions. He still owes me a favor. If he dies like this, I'll suffer a huge loss." Sima Yue said. "If you die for him, you'll suffer even more." Feng Zhixing reached out and poked her head. "I knew you were good to Bei Gong Tang and the others. You haven't changed your personality yet." "I don't think I can change it." Sima Yue rubbed her nose. "I'm not expecting you to change it. If you change it, you won't be you anymore. Let's go." Feng Zhixing snorted. "Master, you don't have to go. Ling Yu and I can go." Sima Yue didn't want the Northern Du clan to target Master. "They won't recognize you if you go? Wu Lingyu and I will disguise ourselves." Sima Yue said, "No one will recognize us." "That won't do." Feng Zhixing was worried. "You have to stay by my side. How about this, you guys stay far away. If we can't handle it, you guys can come out." Sima Yue looked at him anxiously. Feng Zhixing knew that she didn't want to bring trouble to him. Although it would be a little troublesome to deal with the Yin clan, it wasn't like he didn't dare to provoke them. However, seeing her pleading eyes, he still agreed to her idea. He was happy to be protected by her. Sima Yue called out Thousand Resonance. After fusing, she casually changed her appearance. Wu Lingyu also changed her appearance. Even their auras had changed. If they weren't in front of Feng Zhixing and the others, they wouldn't have believed that they were the same person. "Master, I'll even lay in your care," Sima Yue said. "All right." The group of them entered the cave one after another. This cave was different from the one in Sima Yue. There were basically no forks in the path there. However, in this mine, there were forks not long after they entered. Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu chose a path according to the direction of the scarlet bees. Feng Zhixing and the others also chose that path. Not long after, they reached another fork. If it wasn't for the scarlet bees' guidance, it wouldn't be easy to find Yin Lang and the others. Because they were worried about Yin Lang and the others, Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu's speed was a little fast. Feng Zhixing and the others had to follow closely to not lose sight of them. Luckily, there weren't many forks in the path inside. They slowly widened the distance between them. With Wu Lingyu around, their auras were almost completely covered. Those who approached them didn't notice them at all. "Yin Lang, let's see how long you can last." Northern Du Hao's voice was still arrogant, as if he had a deep hatred for Yin Lang. Sima Yue and Wu Lingyu looked at each other. It seemed like this wasn't just a battle of interests. Wu Lingyu pouted at Sima Yue and raised his eyebrows. Asking him to save his love rival, he felt that he was becoming more and more broad-minded. Sima Yue understood his meaning. She asked with her eyes, "Don't you want to torture him mentally after saving him?" "Northern Du Hao, I didn't expect you to give up on the ore and use it to set a trap for me. You're still the same as before." Yin Lang's voice was a little weak. It was obvious that he was having a hard time holding on. The Du family and the Yin family were in a spacious cave. There was no path in front of them. The Yin family was trapped here. As for Sima Yu and the others, they were in the tunnel. The tunnel was full of twists and turns. Although they were close, they couldn't see what was happening inside. Sima Yue was a little worried about Yin Lang's situation, but she couldn't get too close. When she heard Yin Lang's voice, she was a little anxious. Although he was pestering her before, he was still the first friend she made after coming to the inner region. Other than her family, she had a good relationship with him. The other party's strength wasn't low. They couldn't use their divine senses to investigate. It wouldn't be good if they alerted the other party. However, she didn't know the situation inside. She also didn't know how many people there were in the Northern Du family. She couldn't make the next decision. Wu Lingyu grabbed her hand. The strength in his palm calmed her anxious heart. She smiled at him, indicating that she was fine. Wu Lingyu shook his head helplessly. With a wave of his hand, the scene inside the cave appeared on the stone wall. Sima Yue stared at the wall with her eyes wide open. She wondered how this guy did it. Although there was only an image on the wall, she could see the situation inside clearly with the sound coming from inside. The cave inside was very similar to the cave she cleaned before. However, there were no stone statues inside. Instead, there were people from the Northern Du family and the Yin family. Yin Lang seemed to have used a trapping array to protect the Yin family. However, this also trapped them and made them unable to leave. Hundreds of people from the Northern Du family surrounded them outside. They had no chance of escaping. As for that defensive array, it was already on the verge of collapse. What do you plan to do? Wu Lingyu looked at her. Sima Yue felt his voice appear in her head. Use poison. Sima Yue said these two words silently. Wu Lingyu raised his eyebrows. These people weren't weak. It wouldn't be easy to poison them. Sima Yue saw the suspicion in his eyes. She smiled confidently and moved her lips. Watch. She first sent a message to Hua Hua, who was with Feng Zhixing and the others. She asked Feng Zhixing and the others to leave. Then she brought Wu Lingyu into the spirit pagoda. Feng Zhixing was worried about Sima Yue's safety. However, he was dragged away by Hua Hua. If Yeye says there's no problem, then there's definitely no problem. If you stay, you'll definitely ruin things. Hua Hua said as she dragged him away. The branch in her other hand was swaying. Feng Zhixing was very worried. However, Hua Hua was her contracted beast. He couldn't force it and could only be dragged away by her. Since he left, Feng Xiujie and the others naturally left as well. In the spirit pagoda, Sima Yue knew that Feng Zhixing had been dragged away by Hua Hua. She was relieved to proceed with the next step. What do you plan to do? He doesn't have much time left. Wu Lingyu's tone was sour. Sima Yue placed her hands on Wu Lingyu's face and pinched it. Watch me. She took out an old book. This was the book she had obtained from Shi Qianji's master. As long as the medicinal ingredients were gathered, there was some poison in it. It could even poison Wu Lingyu for a few breaths, let alone those people. However, she had never refined it before. She needed some time. Anyway, the Spirit Pagoda didn't lack medicinal ingredients and time. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.